It is a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, right
Thank
on.
you for coming by.
Yeah, thanks for having
Cheers.
me, man. Yeah, for sure.
Dude, 17 years?
That is correct, yeah.
Holy shit.
17 years podcasting.
17 years.
Yeah.
So not to completely date you or anything, but
Sure.
I was 9 years old
Okay.
when you started podcasting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because people are like, yeah, you were like right at the beginning. And I was like, pretty close. I was pretty close.
Well, because I mean, when I think of like early podcasters, it's hard to find super popular ones that were before Rogan. Like, did Mark Maron start before he did?
Yeah.
Right? Like, Mark Maron started before he did. Adam Curry, maybe?
Adam Carolla, Adam Curry. So when I first started, there was some really popular ones out there. Keith and the Girl, Red Bar Radio. Adam Curry had a thing called Pod Show.
Okay.
And Pod Show was kind of the corporate podcasting group. So there was like this big movement in the industry where it was like, are you Pod Show, or do you want to be on Pod Show, or do you not want to, do you want to stay away from them? So, and
What were the stigmas back then
what were the stigmas?
behind, like when someone said pod show?
Well, it was basically like they told you what what your
Okay.
content was,
Right.
to a point. You know what I mean? And I think the shows that were on there, and I think they still podcasted. Don and Drew, I think, were there. And yeah, I ended up going to Dallas, and I saw a live Keith and the Girl show. This is like probably my first year podcasting, so there were people out there. I remember in I'm going to say pre-Maron, because there was Maron predates Rogan. There wasn't really famous people doing it.
Right.
There were people that were doing it that became famous, like Red Bar Radio, like T.J. Miller, Hannibal Buress came from there.
So remind me, was Red Bar Radio, was that on Sirius XM, or was that like an internet thing on its own?
They were an internet thing on their own, and then
Okay.
they tried to go, like, they were on terrestrial radio for a little while, and then they got kicked off that. The guy that hosts that, Mike D, he's very punk rock DIY. So he gets kicked off. He got kicked off a lot of stuff. He was pretty controversial, but a lot of people came out of that are famous now. It's kind of nuts. So it's like, oh, weird. So there were people, and then when Maron started podcasting, it really changed everything. That's when you saw the people seeing, like, mainstream art, mainstream entertainment finally looked at podcast as like, oh, this is a viable media. And pre that, it was kind of a, what nerds do. It was kind of embarrassing a little bit. You know what I mean? It was like when
It was podcasts,
Yeah.
people that still read comic books,
Yeah.
and then D&D.
Well, it was like guys in the basement. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was, it was like the big, like, there was this website, and it would tell, like, every month it would rank, like, the podcasts, and you wanted to get in the top 10, but like Pottercast and Mugglecast were always like 1 and 2.
Interesting.
And it was like this big nerd, like, it was what nerds do, what nerds listen to. It's what nerds do. And then Maron came along, and all of a sudden it was like, what, your aunt all of a sudden listens to a podcast, and you're like, whoa, and then Rogan came out. Rogan kind of got big. He came out and he was bigger than Maron, I would say. And then, every comedian in the world now has, a podcast. So.
That's interesting. So what made you want to start one? Especially back then, because, like, I mean, my first exposure to a podcast is I had, like, I think the second version of the iPod Touch.
Okay.
And it had the podcast app on it.
Right.
Doesn't look too much different now.
Yeah.
But I remember I was obsessed with G4 at the time.
Right.
And I maintained that obsession through high school.
Which was a great, the G4, like, there was these programs that were like of their time, and if they were of any other time, they wouldn't, have made it. And it's like TRL, like MTV, TRL, G4, because, like, they tried to bring G4 TV back, but
It crashed.
You don't need it. You have YouTube. You don't need TRL. You don't need MTV because you have YouTube.
Exactly.
But those are all products of the time, and, like, so podcasting to me, why I started it is I'm a guy. I grew up in the small, like I grew up Eastern New Mexico, small town, and I, always, didn't fit in, didn't feel like I should have been there, and I've always been introvert, extrovert. But like, if there's a microphone, I'm going to go over to it and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to, or I'm going to go to the podium if you're in a gymnasium or,
So were you like the one kid that actually enjoyed public speaking?
I'm very good at it.
No shit.
Very good at
I
it.
was terrified of that when I was a kid.
The podcast is sponsored by the amazing people over at Chop Chili Company. If you've been a listener to the podcast for a while, you know that I love these guys and their amazing chili. And right now they are running a special offer exclusive to the listeners of this podcast. Go online to chopchilico.com and use code OnlyKings at checkout, and not only will you receive 25% off your entire order, you will also get a free cookbook based on Hatch chili recipes free at checkout. Like I said, go to chopchilico.com and use code OnlyKings at checkout, and not only will you receive 25% off your order, you will also get a free cookbook to go with your chili. They are also in stores across New Mexico at stores such as Albertsons, John Brooks, Lowe's, and a bunch more in cities such as Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Tucumcari, Las Vegas, Roswell, Ruidoso, and even Hobbs, New Mexico. And for our listeners in El Paso, Texas, we are in your supermarkets as well. Like I said, go to chopchilico.com, use code OnlyKings at checkout for 25% off and a free cookbook. Now back to the podcast.
I'm more terrified of like being one-on-one with a person than I am if you go to Launchpad and someone's like, "Hey, go introduce the band that's coming up." Okay.
You just did that, right? For Not Other Than Cover Bands. Yeah, I saw a video you doing that. For Tenacious D?
Yeah.
Guys that are doing Tenacious D? Yeah, Jack Black and Kyle Gass came, by the way. So, But yeah, I saw you do it. That was a cool video.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed in a lot of manners, but I've become friends with the Slums of Harvard.
Oh, okay.
And I was fucking around with them one night. I was like,
I've had Leroy on the show.
He mentioned that to me. Yeah. And I was telling him, like, you guys should get someone, dress him up in a cheap suit like the movie, and have him go up for one of your shows. I fucking love this band. I did just once.
Yeah.
I would kill to see that. But anyway.
And so, that's funny because they're the guys who do the theme song of my podcast. So.
Oh, no shit?
Yeah, it's Carlos the Tall or just Carlos. He doesn't go by that anymore. But so like I am that kid, I took public speaking in college because my friend was teaching it, and she's like, take this class. You don't have to show up. Just show up for the speeches. And so I did. And and she gave me a B because she goes, I can't give you an A because you didn't show up. And I think I did 3 speeches my last day of class.
Nice.
And it's like, yeah, I have no issue with it. But yeah, so when I was younger, like I had a girlfriend at the time. We lived together, and I was she was still in college. I was not. And I was maintaining these apartments, and I would have to mow like these huge lawns. So I got an iPod Touch, like not an iPod Touch, iPod Nano, the little Nano that you clipped on your amazing device. So I would listen to my playlist of music. Well, after a couple months, I was like, this isn't like nowadays where you just have everything at your fingertips. So I was on iTunes, which you don't have anymore. I don't think iTunes even exists anymore, does it?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay. Well,
I only know that because a lot of my movie library is on iTunes.
Okay.
That like switched over to Apple TV.
And so I was like looking at it, and I was like, what is a podcast?
Yep.
So then I was like scrolling through it, and I was like, well, I kind of listened to a little bit. I was like, okay, it's like a radio show. So I downloaded some of the comedy ones, and it was really clear pretty quickly. I was like, wait a minute. These are people doing this like at their house. This isn't like Apple has, I didn't know what they were. I thought like maybe, somebody like radio station or something made them. And I was like, wait a minute. These are people that are just went and bought microphones and stuff. Can I swear on this? Is that okay?
Oh
okay.
Fuck yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah.
So like I was like, these are people in their fucking house. They're just doing whatever, and I was like, holy shit. So I go home that night after listening to some, because some are really good. Some were really bad.
And how old are you at this point?
Oh, man, late 20s.
Are you still in Eastern New Mexico? Or?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
late 20s, probably like 20. I'm going to say, no, I may have been in my, let's see. No, I was in my early 30s.
Okay.
My early 30s at this point. And so I go home, and my friend lives next door, and I go over to him, and I'm like, dude, check this out. And I start showing him. I was like, I think we should do this. And he's like, okay. And he was like the money bank of it all. So that weekend,
We have that in common.
we drove down to like Clovis, which I'm from Clovis, but like at the time I was in Portales.
Okay.
We drove down to Clovis. These are all going to be huge dated references to the Radio Shack.
Fuck yeah.
And we bought microphones, like the cheapest piece of shit microphones you could buy. Not a mixer, but like a volume leveler. And then I had to order. So in those days, there was no class. There was no YouTube.
Was video podcasting a thing?
No.
Okay.
Not when I started, no.
'Cause I think that's the big discriminator for
Right.
sure. Is
Right.
like, because I mean, that's what I fucking did. I had no shame in
Yeah.
saying that. I saw what Rogan was doing.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, he's got these microphones look like this. He's
Yep.
got these boom arms.
Yep.
You know.
But you didn't have that.
Yeah.
So, and then like if you would email people, there was a big gatekeeper. There was really big gatekeeping. And so like literally like I remember emailing a podcast, and they printed out my email and ripped it up on the air. And
Are they still around now?
I think I looked one day, and I think the guy still is, but they're nowhere like where they were. And I'm like, whatever,
Right.
you know. And
What a bunch of pricks.
right, it was very bad like that. And it, like you would go in the forum, because it was big. Those were the forum ages, you know, where they would go in forum, and people wouldn't, you know, people. So I would go through forums, and so finally I realized I needed to get an external, what do you call it, audio card? And you know, I'm a
Like an SD card.
no.
Oh.
So like back in those days, you needed to have a way of plugging everything into a computer. So like I figured out, you know, I got RCA cables to the 1/8, and I plug them in. And if your laptop or desktop didn't have like the mic and the headset, you had to get and if it did, they may be shitty. Like they didn't make components very well.
Well, they weren't reinforced with anything.
No, and and so you would have insane. So like there was a thing called like an iMic, and it was an external like sound card.
Yeah.
And so I got one of those, and then like we started like we did an hour a day every day.
Holy shit.
5 days a week for the first year.
So it's you and your buddy.
It's me and my buddy and my girlfriend at the time.
Holy, how in the world? Okay, you brought back a funny memories. I remember having like, it was an old iPod or like a really like a tiny like the notebook laptops.
Yeah.
And if you had your headphone jack and the music wasn't sounding right, you had to slowly turn it to get it to work properly. Because again, those components were not reinforced with a shit.
No.
And as a little kid, I'm like, okay, I think I can like, oh, that's how you make. Okay.
I
sounds good.
remember when Radio Shack went under, and it freaked me out. I was like, oh shit, I don't know how I'm gonna get stuff. Because everything was very DIY. You didn't have like you didn't go to Best Buy and they had a
podcasting section,
right? Well, it's not even podcasting section; it's a streamer section, right? It's like this whole like streamer. They didn't have that, you know. Guitar Center didn't have that, you know.
Right.
So it was very DIY, and no one had the same setup. Like this is the first time I've ever done a podcast with someone else, and they had a component that I have. Ever.
Oh, I take that as a badge of honor there.
Yeah, you saw. I was like, you have that, and I was like, oh wow.
And I have to give all the credit in the world to my buddy Jay. He at the time he lived in L.A., but now he's in Arizona, and basically like he's the guy that sits behind a computer for 12 hours a day and makes his money. Right? Does a lot of coding, makes his own music, that type of shit.
Sure.
Because originally when I approached him, I was like, hey man, I had this idea for a podcast.
Yeah.
I would, because he's a really good graphic designer.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, I don't know shit about Photoshop, and I don't have any intention of learning.
And you don't really have to anymore anyway.
Yeah, you just pay people to do something. Like,
No. Well, you can do that. But like now, so much of like you go to Adobe Express and like you can AI, you can like type in what you want and it'll kind of make it for you, or you can like take one of their templates and just pull shit, and it's crazy.
That's very true. I've seen as I'm updating all my Adobe shit, I've seen the thing for AI and all that. But I asked him, I was like, dude, like here's my idea for the logo.
Yeah.
OnlyFans but Kings. Can you do that? I'll shoot you some money.
Yeah.
Like, I think it'd be a funny thing to do. Well, he comes back to me 2 days later. And he's like, okay, well, I got your mock up, but don't pay me. I'll produce the pod for you. And if it becomes something big, you can just pay me in the back end.
Right.
This took me 10 minutes. I'm not going to take $50 out of you because of 10 minutes of work. It's like, damn. Like, at this point, me and him have been friends for 6-7 years.
No, I give you pretty good props on this too. Like, it's interesting. Like, it's because there's the illusion. Like, you know what I mean?
What do you mean? Oh, of like on camera.
What they're seeing,
yeah,
and what I'm seeing,
yeah,
here, yeah. And it's like, because if you see my show, people come and they show up to my studio and they're like, oh, okay, it's the same kind of thing, right? And it's kind of interesting because like I was like, okay, because like when I walked in, I was like, because I was trying to figure it out when I was watching it because that's what I do. I mean, that's what
No, it's the I guess you could call it the set design, like the studio design is like one of my favorite parts of the show. But anyway, so he doesn't do it as much anymore, which I'm very sad about because he's a very actually talented musician when it comes to like production, and then he actually has a good singing voice. But he doesn't make music too much anymore. But at the time, he was big into that, and he was like, hey, this is the type of audio stuff you should get. And he was like, look, you can buy cheap stuff and save up money, or if you've got, because at the time I had just gotten back from a deployment, and I think the first like stimulus check hit. So he's like, dude, if you got a little bit of cash on you, if you got friends that can help you, this is the shit you should buy. And that's one of the things he recommended me, was that one.
My friend is one of their spokespeople.
No shit. Yeah, I mean, it's a great piece of, if the friend is watching, they know what they're doing over there at PodTrack. Yeah. Anyway, what I was going to ask you a little bit earlier is, so you and your buddy and your girlfriend at the time sitting together for an hour a day, 5 days a week.
Yep.
What the fuck were you guys talking about?
Oh, just the worst stuff.
Because
it was terrible.
I just asked because I do podcasts every now and again with my buddies.
Sure.
And I love these guys.
Yeah.
Like, I've known them for over a decade. I've lived with them, right? I love these guys, but I don't, because we see each other most days. I mean, they're like, one is an EMT, another one's a firefighter, so they're off on shift and doing their own thing.
Okay.
But like, it's like, I can always sit down with them and just talk shit, have fun, whatever.
Sure.
I don't know if we could do like a continuous
you know, there was a thing you sent me and it said if you could do something every day of your life, you know, if you have no money, it would be this.
Yeah.
This would be what I want to do every day. And it was weird because like I thought like, you know, there was a lot of like when I first started, I had a list of like, you know, dream things that if they ever happened, it would be cool. And every single one of them came true, almost. And I thought to myself, man, one day like it would be cool if I got discovered and I went and was on the radio, you know, because you know back when I was growing up, the radio like was, you know, they were king, and I've done that, and I ended up getting on the radio, and the people I was doing it with, they were great. Tyler, who was on your show last week, I worked with him.
Yeah,
and they were great, but radio is just a big shell of what it used to be. It's really weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, can you imagine doing this, but as soon as we're done, a boss comes in and tells you did a great job, but here's the things you need to work on?
See, and that's why I love, like, because like on the one hand, I can look at that scenario.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to like get over myself and watch the podcast that I do so I can catch the way that I speak, the way that I articulate myself, the way that, so I can improve my own speech. I'm trying to see if that'll work for me.
What do you think's wrong with your speech?
I don't know. That's the issue. I would love to have an answer to that. I asked myself that same question last week, because I've just been thinking about that recently.
I mean, I listened to some of your shows. There's nothing I saw that was.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah,
I do appreciate that.
I feel like, okay, so I know the question's going to come up, like probably where like, what would I say to somebody who's starting to do this? You know, probably. I don't know if you were going to ask that.
Oh yeah, but I mean, yeah.
I'll say this. This is not. Like the problem with podcasting is everybody thinks it's easy. Do you know what I
mean? Yeah.
And everybody like if you know the biggest thing I can say is if you go into this with the idea that I'm going to do this for a living and I'm going to make money, you're doing it the wrong way.
Oh yeah.
It absolutely the wrong way. And
excuse me.
You're not. I hate when people like I don't know if you get this, But like, you know, I'd go to work and people are like, "Oh, you have a podcast. You should have me on your show. I'm funny." And you know, I'd be like, "Yeah, you know." And it was very insulting to me because it was like, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to bring you on my show and you're going to say 3 words in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy to do this.
Well, okay, so I agree.
Yeah.
Because I've had that scenario happen.
Not everyone,
for
but,
sure. Yeah, no. Yeah, I've had that scenario happen for sure. I wouldn't use the word insulting. Maybe
it's not insulting, but
yeah.
it's, you know,
but I see what you're saying. It's you are underestimating what's going on.
You're underestimating the skills that we have built up and worked on.
And that's why I bring up what I was saying a little bit earlier is that I don't know. Because I know it's the skill of conversation, right? It's the skill of quick thought process, digestion, and then saying whatever it is you have to say in response to that, whether it's actual rhetoric that this is like predisposed feelings about a subject or it's a new thought that you're trying to come up with on the fly, right?
Sure.
Those are definitely the skill sets. But what I've been thinking about with myself is like, okay, maybe I should start rewatching my stuff to see, are there patterns that I have that are not predictable, but like do they pin me in a corner one way conversationally to where it dies here, where it could have gone longer if I, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Like just new avenues to look into the way that I articulate and present myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But exactly my point is I had a thought.
Yeah, and I derailed it. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I had a throughway to that, and I just, maybe it'll come back to me.
That's okay.
But going back to your buddy and your girl at the time.
Yeah.
Was there ever? So I guess 2-part question. Was there ever a, hey, we're gonna sit down and I want to talk about A, B, and C, and then did that ever happen? And if it didn't happen at that time, when did that? If it ever started happening, has it ever gotten to the point where you show up and you're like, hey, I have these predisposed questions. I remember I was going to say, your boss, boss coming in telling you, hey, these are your notes. I would love to take constructive criticism from those that have been doing this longer than me, right? Yourself included, or just people that maybe are better, are more well-spoken than I am. But if it's a corporate dickhead coming in, because I'm 2 ways, right? I'm open to criticism, but I also want to do things my own way.
Yep.
And so that's the best description I've ever heard of podcasting is from Lex Friedman, where he called it pirate radio.
Yes.
And that's what it is.
Yes.
I would hate to be in a great, like, state-of-the-art studio, the new SM7Bs with built-in preamps, and we've got drinks, and we've got this, and it's nice and air-conditioned or heated to your, like, liking.
Well, let me tell you this, the radio station ain't like that.
Oh, no, I'm just best-case scenario. Yeah. Like, best-case scenario, right?
Gotcha, yeah.
And then somebody walks in at the end and crashes it. Because if you felt it millions of times. When you get done with a good podcast, it's like, oh, shit, like that was great. That added to my life. I feel like I added to their life. We've got new insight. Or if it's an old friend, you kicked it, had a good time, whatever. Fine. Now you have that memory locked in on an episode. Awesome. But then if some fucking cocksucker comes in, it's like, hey, you said the F word too many times. You didn't really align yourself with the company's vision of politics right now.
Yes.
You didn't this, and it's like, dude, please go fuck yourself. Well, it seems like you need it.
And it's not and it's not like when I say criticism, I don't mean that they're like, you know, you didn't do this right. It's more of if you go into topics like that, we're gonna lose sponsors. And it's like and like that, which leads me into like where people are always like, you know, 17 years shouldn't you be? You know what, man? I'm one of those people. Even podcasting, if you really want certain, you know, to go to a certain level, you do have to kind of curtail a lot. And I just can't do it.
I don't know that you have to.
Well, if you want the sponsors and they'll be like, well, you know, we don't want you, you know, we didn't like the, you know, you went on this tangent, and then, you know, I just know that like there is some of that. I'm not saying fully like radio, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, and granted, I'm not going to say like I know that, because the one sponsor that I do have that is the shit. Shout out to Chop Chili, love you guys. That was one of the. We had a very short conversation before doing it, you know, and it was. And one of the things that came up is like, hey man, like I will promote you guys. However you want me to promote you guys, or specials got going on, or products want me to, whatever. That's fine. Yeah. My only ask is that you just don't tell me what to say. What to say when I say. And Zane, shout out to that guy. He's awesome. He's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck, dude.
Right.
And I think a big reason for that is because he is in my age range as well.
There you go.
You know, so I think he kind of understands. And I think a lot of other like companies in general, I think are waking up to the idea of, look, man, like this is the way the culture is going.
Right.
And we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can sponsor a Joe Rogan, a Shane Gillis, a Mark Norman podcast in the same way that we can sponsor a Dax Shepard, a Trevor Noah, these guys, right? Not to say that they're on opposite ends of the political spectrum, but they just have, I mean, if you sit down those people together, they have very different political views, but their audiences love them for who they are, and they know that we can do the same thing. Like, we don't have to marry. Well, and I think the biggest, not to cut you off, but like I think one of the biggest, like sounding the alarms is, hey, don't be like these guys, ironically, was Bud Light.
Yep.
What they did. Feel how you want to feel, say what you want to say about that whole movement, about that whole environment, that subculture is becoming a mainstream culture. They alienated, it wasn't, because people latch on too much, in my opinion, they latch on too much to the Dylan Mulvaney part of it. But that's not the point. The point is they alienated their main consumer base.
They did, yeah.
When you've got the CEO of Bushhauser, whatever the fuck it's called.
Anheuser-Busch, yeah.
Anheuser-Busch. When you've got the CEO coming out and saying, we want to move away from the, quote, frat party aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you mean 75% of your fucking sales, you morons?
Right.
What the fuck?
It's an interesting thing. But, I mean, but I do applaud them for trying to do something different. You know, I mean...
No, do something different, but don't go out and say, hey, fuck all college people.
No.
You know what I mean?
But, like, something you said, like, you know, you said people are starting to come around to it. That is true. So, like, you know, we've had, like, the last two sponsors we've had have both been alcohol. But literally, people would be like, I can't sponsor your show because of your name. You know, 10 drink minimum.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know,
I love that name. I think that name is catchy as shit.
But, you know, it has a stigma to it. And, like, I've literally been told, like, that's why we can't do it. And then they're like, you should change it. I'm like, I'm not going to change it. It's, first of all, it's branded. You know, it's like. Yeah. So finally now, and can I say the sponsor? I don't know. If
I don't.
Okay. So my last two sponsors, one was Long Drink.
Okay.
For the Finnish Long Drink.
Okay.
And because of them, like, how well we did with them, well, the poor guy that was, like, our rep ended up, like, passing away.
Oh, shit.
So then we lost that sponsor because of that. But right away, as soon as we lost them, Topo Chico Seltzer came in.
That's sick.
And Topo Chico Seltzer has been, like, amazing. But I would, you know, but it's because of, like, what you said, like, where, you know, people are starting to come around, not only come around to, like, this is what's going on, coming around to, like, this is where the young hip, like, movement is. You know, this is where people go and they see things and they try things. Yeah. And it's, like, not all, you know, because, I mean, you know, I don't know if I doubt you have cable TV. No one has cable TV anymore. They stream, and they watch YouTube all day. I watch YouTube all day. You know, they watch TikTok. They watch, you know, and that's where it's all at.
It's all independent. Well, it's all independent media, and I think
it's all DIY.
Who was it? I think Michael Mouse had brought it up.
Yeah,
and one of his pods he did recently, where he was like, "Yeah, I've kind of moved away from calling the mainstream media mainstream. It's not mainstream. No. Podcasting is mainstream, and that's corporate media."
Well, Spotify, 35% of all listeners of Spotify are podcast listeners.
Oh shit,
35%, and they're over here, like, you know, and it's crazy because, like, I have a lot of friends who are musicians, and they're like, "Well, Spotify barely paid us anything," and I said, "Well, let me give you a news flash. 35% of their listeners are us, and they didn't pay us nothing. Yeah. They paid Joe Rogan a bunch of money. They didn't pay none of us nothing.
Which was a smart investment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, like, we're, you know, when is the podcasters going to say, hey, wait a second here. We're 35% of your listener base? When are you going to pay us?
That's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I think, okay, let's shelf that.
Yeah.
Because I want to come back to that. I haven't actually thought about that. Yeah. That's funny. So your branding with your name, because I think the name's great. Mm-hmm. But has there ever been a point where you're like, well, maybe I should change the name, but then how do I change it? Where do I change it? And then, like, how do I maintain the...
There's been a couple times. I've actually had to tell people to change theirs because they took mine. And I had to, and they were really cool about it. I was like, hey, I see you've done four podcasts, but I've been around for, like, you know, at that time I was like 15 years.
Yeah.
And they were like, crap, sorry, all right, and they changed theirs.
Yeah,
But
for
like,
sure.
but like, it's also tough now. It's like I can't believe you got that one. That one's OnlyKings.
I'm shocked I did too.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But like, there's been it was those moments where it was like, what do I want out of life? Do I want to like play the game and kind of like sell out a little bit? I guess I don't know. Or do I want to do what I want to do? And it was always, and I have nothing. There really wasn't a way it was going to happen. I can't. Like, I'm doing it the way I'm going to do.
Right. No, that's fair.
And that's why I'm here. Yeah, that's fine.
No, I respect the shit out of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, personally, like, because I've thought about that a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm still on such a low rung of the ladder that there's still a lot of time to rebrand, like, if needed. But even then, it's like, because my big worry, and I have no intention to.
Right.
No intention. My big worry about it, not big worry, but like a thought in my head was, well, what if, and this is like year 1, right? I'm now entering year 4.
Oh, you're in year 4.
Yeah.
Okay. You've been doing it a while.
And
you passed the 6-month period.
Done my best, for sure. Done my best. But I thought about it, and I was like, okay, I do intend, in my first 10 episodes, I did have, I think, like 1 or 2 female guests on. But I was like, I intend on having female guests, because why wouldn't I?
Sure.
But I wonder if this is going to come off as like misogynistic, or it's going to come off as like anti-sex worker or whatever the fuck, right?
Sure.
So I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to put it out there. I'm not even going to say those words.
No.
These are thoughts in my head.
Okay.
And if they come up, we'll deal with it then.
Yeah.
And I shit you not, it never came up until 6 months ago.
Oh, okay.
When I got a nasty DM from somebody I don't know, and they don't know me.
Those are the best.
And I've got it screenshotted. It's funny. I think I have it screenshotted, and it's in a chat between me and Leroy, funny enough. And it was this nonsense about how you're not supporting sex workers. You don't have them on your platform. And that type of spiel, right?
Well,
and then I read that and I was like, okay, so apart from the fact that like episode 6 or 8 or whatever was a sex worker, I think this is an indicator I'm on the right path. So I'm going to stick with it.
Let me ask you this though. I mean, you're talking about OnlyFans, right?
Yeah.
Well, OnlyFans isn't only female. I mean, it's male and female.
Yeah.
It's predominantly. What I really loved is when they tried to like brand themselves as not the porn site, right?
Oh yeah, because that's when like PayPal and
yeah.
like Bank of America and Citi were like, "Hey, wait a minute,
Right?
What the fuck is going on here?"
But that's what I mean, there's men on OnlyFans. I mean, there are.
Dude, fucking.
There are. I mean, I don't know.
Not that I know what's on his fucking page, but DJ Khaled's on fucking OnlyFans.
Okay.
Apparently.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I mean, you I didn't look at it that. I looked at it as you saw something that was popular.
Yeah.
And you emulated it.
I just thought it'd be funny. Because at the time, the meme that was running around was like, "Keep your head up, King. You don't need your that type of shit." It's like, oh,
Gotcha.
well, what?
Yeah.
And I hit up one of my best friends, Evan. He lives in Nevada.
Yeah.
I hit him up and I was like, "Hey, man." He's like one of my idea guys.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll hit him up and I'm like, "Hey, man, I have an idea for a podcast. This is the name. What do you think?" He goes, "That's stupid enough to be funny. You should do it."
Well, I've gotten people like, don't you feel like you're promoting like, alcoholism, drinking and driving.
Whoa, that's a bit much.
And like, the idea was never like about drinking. So the idea is you do stand up, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't call myself a comedian. I do stand up.
In a traditional comedy club, what do they tell you? They tell you to bring 2 people.
Yep.
And then there's a 2-drink minimum.
Yep.
Right? So
Yeah.
in my mind, I was like, well, we're not going to be very funny. It's going to be a 10-drink minimum. That was the idea. And I didn't realize.
We're funnier when you're drunk.
Right. And so the idea was that, and people loved it, but like they loved it because everyone always asks that's never watched it. If I come on your show, do I have to drink 10 drinks? And I'm like, you don't have to drink any. If you want to, that's fine. You don't have to.
In fact, 10 drinks in the first half hour. The 11th one's free. You can go right ahead.
Right. But you're gonna get like. You said it. You said if you got hate mail are you doing things right? Yes. And you're always like, here's how I feel about it. Like I remember when I was younger, and I was like, man, if I get bigger and people start trashing me on am I gonna be able to handle it? And why would they? Well, we live in a culture now, you could send everybody gold in the mail and cure cancer. And there's 40,000 comments about how you're the biggest piece of shit.
They're going to yell at you for giving them lead poisoning.
Yeah. So you're going to get it. I've gotten viral a couple times on a couple different things, like 1.3 million, whatever, on a couple different goofy things. And people are like, "Do you see the comments?" And I go through and I'd read them, and it was really like fun. Yeah. Like I enjoyed it because like one of them I used to play this game Skate 3. I still play it every once in a while. Skate 3. But there was like this one thing I tried to do for like a long time, and my friend filmed it, and then we put it online. It got 1.2 million real views on Instagram. And the funny thing, I'm like going down through there, and it's like my 4-year-old brother could do that, and then I would reply. I'd be like, "Oh man, he's really good," and they would see that I was the poster, right. and all of a sudden they'd be like, "Oh man, sorry, I didn't mean to and it was really weird because like the keyboard courage dropped real quick, but I find it hilarious. Yeah. I've been called fat. Drunk, like a drunken idiot. I've been called all kinds of things, and it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, you're still watching. I don't know. Right.
Well, that's the funny thing is I actually just had my first real get a significant, relative to others, a significant amount of views like that. Yeah. And I went through. I didn't reply, but I did like all the comments. Good and bad. Mm-hmm. And it was like worst host in history. You're actually bad at what you do. Let's shut the fuck up and let her speak. And da 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 da. And then the one that was one of my favorites was because I've been liking all of them, mm-hmm. and it was I could tell this guy gets off on all these comics. He's liking mm-hmm. all of them. You need to know you're bad at what you do, and you're this and you're that and that. And I'm like, I almost replied to that because it was so like this person might actually believe what they're saying, right? Or maybe it's ChatGPT. Who gives a fuck?
And it's crazy because like I love that the internet. I feel like the internet is the great equalizer.
Keep going. I'm just gonna check the cameras.
Okay, I feel like it's the great equalizer in a lot of ways, but it's also a terrible cesspool of whatever. But the reason why I say great equalizer is like it took where not only all these famous people could just be the heads of media, but it gave it kind of back to the people. You know what I mean? It's ruined some industries. It's ruined like movie or music, but I feel like now as a musician, you can do a lot of DIY stuff and you can do your own production. You can put your stuff out there. It's harder to do, but it's still there. I don't know where I'm going with this, but you just have to be able
the internet being the great equalizer.
Them saying you're bad at what you do, well, that's why you're doing it, to get better at what you do. So I really, growing up without the internet, as an adult, there'll be times when I'm sitting there and I'll be like, whatever happened to that person that I watched on that TV show? And I can go find out. Right. Or I was really into pro wrestling when I was a kid, and I'd be like, wonder why that guy just disappeared. And I go look it up. I go, oh, he was in rehab. So I'd find out the truth. Well, speaking on someone trashing you about being good or bad or whatever. So there's a show on Vice that's called Dark Side of Blank. They do The Ring.
Dark Side of the Ring was really good.
They have the 90s. They did the 2000s. Well, I watched the one, and I'll bring it up again, about TRL. And I didn't like TRL when I was, in that time period.
And for people listening, just as a brief...
Total Request Live on MTV. Yeah. So I watched that one. And I gained all this respect, but they would talk about all the hate mail that they would get about how awful they were. Yeah. But yet they were one of the number one programs at 3 p.m. And it's you no matter what you do, you're going to get people to tell you how bad you are.
Well, it's you look at something like Keeping Up with the Kardashians, The View. Am I going to go out of my way to shit on those people for doing that show? No, not at all. Am I going to watch them? No, because they are not.
It's not for you.
I recognize two things at once. It's not for me, and I don't like them. No. So therefore, why would I? But then there's people that just don't have enough going. And I don't say this is a disparaging thing. I say it as a factual thing. Right. You do not have enough going on. No. You just don't. Right. I mean, if you're going to go out of your way
to tell someone they suck.
Yeah, it's you don't have enough going on. And then, but at the same time, if I'm being completely honest, I love the fact that you have nothing going on. Because what are you doing?
Watching
You
your
are
show.
boosting my engagement.
Sure.
Please, I beg you, tell me I'm a piece of shit. Tell me I'm a misogynist. Tell me that I'm, because I don't
I mean, are you a misogynist? I don't know.
Yeah, not at all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't
And the only opinions that I care about are the people that are around me.
Sure.
And they know exactly who they are. And as long as I'm in their goodwill,
Yeah.
and as long as I know that, they're keeping me in check, keeping them in check, we're okay. So to go back to a subject we had before, podcasters getting paid through Spotify.
Sure.
I think a door should open to it.
Absolutely.
I think that there should be it's just off the top of my head, maybe like a tier system.
I mean, we all walk away from Spotify. That 35%,
Right.
that collapses that program.
Yes, but also the barrier of entry is so low.
Right.
Right? To where it's like, okay, if you upload your content and you don't get that many views, like where I'm at right now, I don't get a ton of stuff on Spotify, but I mean, it's here and there.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
it's consistent growth. That's all I care about.
Here's the problem I have with it.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know how much growth you get other than what they tell you?
Yeah, well, there has to be I mean, we are living in an age of questioning, which I love.
Because they buy, because everybody's like, oh, Chartable. I was like, Chartable that they own? They bought it.
Right.
You know?
So I do mine through, not that it really matters for the conversation, but I do mine through Podbean.
Sure.
And I'm trying my best to get everything synced up.
Have you ever noticed, though, that like things don't ever match up? You're like, well,
in what way?
Like you'll go on Podbean and it'll say, this is how many listens you got here. You go on, because here's the problem with the podcasting. Like I just gave up on it all. Like you have to go on your host. They'll tell you how many downloads you got. But then they'll be like, well, here's how many streams you got. But then you go on Spotify's thing, and it tells you got different streams than what.
See, I haven't even seen Spotify's thing yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm still working on marrying the two.
And then Pandora has a thing, because you have to go to every single different one's like thing to see how many streams they've got for you. And they don't jive.
Okay.
And I'm like, I feel like at some point when somebody invents, and somebody's probably going to email you and be like, there is a thing, which is fine.
Yeah.
Someone needs to get like a universal thing that goes through and picks it all up. And it just, for me, it really needs to be not owned by one of the major, like Nielsen, like they're not owned by, I mean, I don't know if they're not, but like radio gets, they get ratings. Like that helps them with their advertisement.
Right.
And it's like, I have a real problem with the people who, if I make a lot of views, they might pay me, telling me how many views I'm getting.
So I agree. I agree with that. Like on a face level, 100% I agree with that, because you should question.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I mean, there has to and I think the reason there might not be a level of trust there, or not like a level of truth to that, because of just the world we live in right now. Everything's getting upbeat. Everything. Sure. We're questioning everything. Nothing really like is what they claim it to be, and whether it's government, whether it's societal, whatever, right? But there has to be a level of like, okay, I'm going to trust you're telling me the right thing, and then based on that, here's a tier system.
Well, you have no other choice.
Like it's like with YouTube, right? To get monetized, you have to get this many subscribers, you have to get this many views, you have to get this many shorts views or whatever.
And it's crazy because that used to not be that way. I filmed a thing. I mean, Jesus, like 10 years ago, it was Terrell Owens. Do you remember he played in indoor football? Like he left like he got basically like cut from everybody. So he came here and he played against the indoor football team here, and he got knocked over a wall. And I put it on YouTube. And it got 1 million views, and I got like $1,000 from it. And but now that like I would not get that money because you have to have a certain amount of subscribers. There's a formula. Like everything is like morphed, and it's like it was really crazy because it was almost like Willy Wonka. Like I was like, how are they going to pay me? And like one day in the mail, like a Google like postcard came, and it was like click on or type in this link and put in this code and then add your bank information. And they sent me $1,000. Sent me a W-2. It's like, whoa, it's kind of crazy.
Interesting. See, I still got to sit down. I got to get because I run all this through an LLC. So I got to get I got to find my old LLC papers and get my tax stuff set up to Instagram and all that shit so that I can do all that. Yeah. But like, I think because the barrier to entry is so low for podcasting, and that's what I tell people, and I love that it is, by the way. I want to put that out in the front. You do not need fucking $500 microphones
No.
and cameras and all that shit. I tell everybody that, like, at a bare minimum, you need a iPhone or a smartphone that has a audio recorder.
Oh, man.
And just get in a decent room and you'll be okay.
The question I get asked more than anybody is like, hey, I'm going to start a podcast. What stuff do you use? And I'll be like, have you podcasted before? No. All right. Do you have a laptop? Yep. I'm like, at the most, here's what I think you should do. And this is just me. Go to Best Buy, buy a blue snowball. You know the microphone? Buy that.
It's like $50.
$50. Plug it into your laptop. Start recording. Use Audacity. It's free.
That's what I used in the beginning too.
I worked at the radio station. That's what they use. It's still there.
I love it.
I still use it. I've used it for
Fuck
17
yeah.
years. There's no other. I have no other need for anything else. So I tell them that.
Which is a free program.
Free program.
By the way.
Free.
Especially if you're just doing one channel.
Yeah.
Free.
Free. You can do multi-channel.
Yeah.
There's all kinds, but like free. And then I'm like, and they're like, well, I want to use what you use. And I'm like, what I use is thousands of dollars of equipment. I don't want you to buy all that stuff and then do 10 episodes and then quit.
Yeah.
Because this is, I don't know. For me, there's like, I know people say the 100 episode threshold. I don't think there's a 100 episode threshold. I think there's a 6-month threshold. If you can make it past 6 months, you can make it. I've watched
6 months based on what volume though?
I
You know what I mean?
weekly, probably.
Yeah, weekly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen, and I'm saying this from personal, like, because I see when they pop up. I saw when you popped up. I see them because it's in my in my wheelhouse. Like
your
I'm like,
periphery for sure. Yeah.
So like I'll watch and then like I'll go and I'll remember them and then I'll go back after like 6 months and I'll be like, they quit, and I'll see it, and that's because this is not easy to do. It's hard to maintain. It's hard. It's like, I don't know. Like it's just you, so that's not as bad. Like my show has multiple people.
Yeah.
And
So you run it with Holly Ann Bird, and then the other guy sits on a stool. I forget his name.
James Smiley.
There we go.
Yeah. His real name is Smiley. Everybody thinks that's a nickname. It's a real name.
You guys were talking about a restaurant I've never been to, by the way. I think it was either this past Sunday or the Sunday beforehand. Y'all were talking about the shop.
Yeah.
I've never been.
Yeah. It just got voted best breakfast in Albuquerque.
I looked it up because I was listening to your shit at work.
Yeah.
And I looked it up, and I'm doing it. I'm doing a thing right now where I intermittent fast till dinner, and I eat a lot between like 5-ish to 10-ish.
I've lost 22 pounds in 2 months.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Right. And I've felt myself getting a little wide around the ends. I was like, okay, we need to like slim that down a little more.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't eaten all day at work today, and just water and tobacco and nicotine. And I looked at that on their menu, and I was like, fuck. This is the wrong thing to look at right now.
Yep.
It looks so fucking good. Right off of Monte Vista.
Oh, it's so good.
Looks so fucking good.
That dude has been on like Beat Bobby Flay. He's been on the Food Network multiple times.
Yeah.
I've had him on my show.
You had mentioned that.
Yeah. It's been a while. Like we had him. So we used to do our podcast live. There was a bar. You know where the Sunshine is?
Yeah.
So on the opposite corner, to the west, there's like this place that has been several bars. For a year, it was a place called the Art Bar. It was a private club, and we did they were like, we want you to come do your podcast there. So we did it every Sunday night.
Is that what Moonlight is now?
It is on the opposite corner.
Opposite.
So you know where the box is?
Yes.
It was across the street.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we did our show there every Sunday.
Oh, shit. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. And that was tough. But we got into this whole like thing of like, well, now you do your shows out live. And everybody wants you to do your shows out live. And then I remember when they closed, then the Blackbird Bouvet, which is where Red Door is now, they were like, well, can you come over here? So we moved it over there. And then they closed. It wasn't my fault. I didn't close these places.
I keep traveling like the plague, and they just fucking.
And I was so happy to not be doing that anymore. Because you imagine having to do this, like set this up every week?
Yeah, the first 2 years of doing this was. No, I'm sorry. The first year and some change of this was I was in my garage.
Yeah.
And I was having to set up and break down every time because it was like, well, what if me and my girlfriend at the time,
Yeah.
if you want to play video games, because we had like retrofitted the garage into a studio space,
Right.
So it was like, okay, we want to play video games down there because it's super nice and we can chill. She could smoke and all this kind of stuff, and we're hanging out. And it's like if you spill something on the carpet, you're chilling, or not the carpet, on the floor, it's all laminate stuff, vinyl. And then when I moved into the second studio, that's when I was like, okay, no, this needs to be like a hard structure.
Right.
Because it's like, and then wind this and do that. And
Imagine doing that every week at a bar.
yeah, fuck that.
Fucking tough.
Yeah.
Hated it. And then, like, it's been a number of years since I've done it. And I got the itch again. So that's why I have that P4. Because I'm like, so we did it at the Mexico Beer Fest this year. And then, of course, they were like, "Oh, you could come back every year." And I'm like, "Fuck." So, and I probably will.
That's awesome.
I just don't like. The thing is like I don't get all insane about it anymore. I used to just really stress out about it. Now I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna set it up, and if shit goes, because it's tough. It's tough to do all this stuff, especially by yourself, not without production. Like we don't have a crew.
Yeah.
We don't have a van that the radio station. So, when you set it up and you're like, shit, the camera's not working. Shit, this isn't working. The audio sounds weird. Some random person walked up and is just talking to you. Yeah. It's tough. It's like, but you just roll with it and just say, whatever, man. Fuck
well,
it.
on the other hand, that's got to be, because, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
The amount of people that have talked to me about you guys.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah. And then the amount of stickers that I fucking see everywhere. And then the amount of years behind what you're doing. It's got to be cool to be ingrained in the community around you.
It is.
That's got to be fucking awesome.
So one thing, like I talked about that list of things that I was like, man, if I could do these things, then I'll be success. Then that will be success to me. Like I used to think like, getting paid and to do this every day would be like the ultimate goal. And then if I don't do that, I'm not successful. And now I'm like, I'm very comfortable. I don't have to worry about like, I don't need to hustle, which is in a way bad because, I don't get out there as much as I should. You know what I mean? I'm not hungry.
In what way?
So like I have a good day. I don't want to talk about my day job, but I make
I'd
make a decent enough wage that, I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
And so,
And do you like? I'd imagine you like your day job.
Yeah.
Because that's the big
Yeah.
conversation, right?
Right.
Is do the independent thing to break out of the 9 to 5.
I mean, I'm an IT guy.
Yeah.
And so I make a pretty good wage doing that.
Yeah.
And
But that's the other hand of it, though. The other side of that coin is that if you like your day job,
right.
and then you have your passion outside of the day
Right.
job,
But they always say like don't have a plan B and that's how you make it, But like for me, it's like making it has changed.
yeah.
And like I remember when I started, like the list was like, man, you ever imagine if we ever did our show in a brewery? Done it. You imagine if we did our show in a bar? Done it. And I told these are things I told people. I was like, man, I would love it if they like someone like named a beer after us. Done it twice. Just crazy things like had like celebrities on. Done it. It's like all the things I dreamed I wanted to happen. Yeah. And so at this point now it's like all gravy, And I want to derail a little second.
Yeah.
I see this Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
Adam West is the greatest celebrity I've ever met in my life.
Oh, you got to meet Adam West.
When I was 12.
That's cool.
And people are like, anytime someone asks, because I host panels at like the Comic-Cons.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I do all that.
I would, if you couldn't tell, I'm a bit of a dork.
Yeah.
I would kill
Yeah.
at least 3 people.
The last one I did Starship Troopers.
Nice.
And it was
I went to school with Casper Van Dien's son.
It was Casper Van Dien, and I can't think of the actor's name. He was he's also in The Walking Dead. But I never watched that. So it was 2 of the actors from But anyway, when I was a little kid, I begged my mom. I was like, please take me to see Adam West. And she did. And like my mom was not one of those people that would do something like that.
Yeah.
And like I don't care who I've met since. Adam West I look back on it the other day and like cuz someone asked me, they're like, who was they were like cuz like my buddy who he when he comes for Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Have you ever watch Kevin Smith movies?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Fuck yeah.
So there was a TV show that they had called Comic Book Men.
I know who you're about to bring up.
So my friend Ming Chen
which blows my mind, by
Yeah.
the way. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna dork out for a second.
Yeah.
It blows my mind when I saw that you're his friend,
Yeah.
A, but B, you've had him on the pod a few times.
Oh,
because
totally.
because
He's had me on his stuff. Yeah.
I was obsessed, still kind of hurt, but obsessed with comic book men.
Oh.
Dude,
I'll let him know.
That was my jam in high school. Like middle school and high school. It's like, because it was like, oh, like I know who Kevin Smith is because I had read his Green Arrow stuff at that point.
Oh yeah.
So I knew about that. And then I.
Well, you are a nerd.
Oh, yeah.
In a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause that's Green Arrow. That's wow.
So I had read his Green Arrow stuff, and then I had seen like the Clerks movies, and then at that point, because I'm in high school, trying to think what Kevin Smith. I don't think Tusk had come out.
Oh,
yet.
okay. Wow.
I can't remember.
See, that's one I haven't seen.
Tusk is
Yeah.
weird.
I watched
but I
the-
loved what. It's funny. What really made me a Kevin Smith like fan, like oh shit, this guy can really do a lot of different things, was his movie Red State.
Oh, that's a great movie. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a great movie.
I mean, it's an independent film. See, what I hate about like people is we're all conditioned to like look at art on a certain level, especially and like I call art like people don't like. Here's what blew my mind is during the pandemic. People were like, we shouldn't, when people say we shouldn't fund art, and I'm like, well, during the pandemic, if you didn't have art, you probably our suicide rate would have been through the roof.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, movies are art. Those are people that are making art, and not all art is on the same level. And so, we look at movies. We look at these like high production studio movies. Well, not all movies are that. I mean, Kevin Smith movies never have been.
And some of the best movies
Yes.
aren't. I mean,
Reservoir Dogs.
Halloween.
Yeah.
Shoestring budget.
Oh shit. Yeah.
No money.
No.
No money at all.
No
to make
money
that
at all.
movie.
Nothing.
Reservoir Dogs. Nothing. Rocky. Nothing.
Nothing.
Um.
Rocky. They tried to pay him more money for him to not be in it.
Yep.
And he bet on himself, and he said no.
Yep. Okay, a low budget movie that you need to watch. If you do you like foreign films?
I'll watch them.
Okay.
If it's good, yeah.
So it's on. I watched it on Shudder. I don't know if
Okay.
it's on like another streaming service, but When Evil Lurks,
Okay.
I watched that last night. It's from Argentina.
Okay.
And I'd heard a lot about it on social media. A lot of people were talking like, "Oh, it's so amazing," and stuff. But I was like, "Fuck it, watch it." Holy
Horror genre is like almost one of the last genres left that you can make a low budget independent film.
yeah! Oh, for sure.
It's almost impossible to make a regular low budget independent film anymore.
Yeah.
And so like when Red State came out, people were like, the quality, and it's like it's not a $20 million movie.
Yeah.
It's like a $3 million movie that they probably struggled to get.
Oh
know?
yeah. Well, I was also at the time I was figuring out what internet porn was at the time.
Sure.
So I was like, "Oh, this is a really scary way this can go wrong."
Yeah.
Like for
Yeah.
people who haven't seen Red State, basically it's three. I think they're like they had just started college friends, and they all go through like these internet, both like porn websites and solicitation websites looking for a hooker. And they find one, but they get captured, and they they end up getting like wrapped up with this almost KKK-esque clan, and
like a kind of a cult kind of thing.
almost like Waco.
Waco.
It's like KKK mixed with Waco.
That's a good
And it's but anyway, to wrap this up,
yeah.
Blew my mind when you were friends with that guy. He's been on your podcast.
He'll be here in January.
Very well spoken,
and then
dude.
he and I are going to be at a nice little plug here. In April, we're going to be at the El Paso Comic-Con together.
Oh shit!
And I don't know if I went to the he's like when I say we're friends, we're like really good friends.
Yeah.
Like I'm all he was like, you need to come to Houston Comic-Con. You got to do it. And so Comic Palooza. So he's like, get down there. He's like, I always get an extra bed in my room. So I flew down there and they were like, oh, you're a podcaster? Comic Palooza is the biggest Comic-Con for podcasters.
Interesting.
They had a big podcasting area in the main hall, and then upstairs they had a smaller one, and we did both.
And how much influence did Kevin Smith have on that? Because
I don't know.
Fat Man on Batman's got to be the biggest.
He wasn't there, but like
really,
no. But I haven't met him. It's weird. I haven't met him yet. But like, so Ming and I got up and did a couple podcasts with people. What was it? Shout out to Cult 45. They're like a movie podcast.
Oh, okay.
Great guys. But I was like, yeah, I need to come back to this every year. It was super fun.
That's awesome.
And Houston is a underrated sleeper of a town.
Yeah.
You know, because when Ming comes, like, we rage. Like, it's like every night till, like, I mean, in Houston, we were up 4 a.m. every night.
Hell yeah.
We were in some place eating crawfish at 4 a.m. like a pound of crawfish at 4 a.m. It's no joke.
That's hilarious.
But because of him, like, I'll end up with people. Like,
yeah.
Do you watch Walking Dead?
I stopped halfway through season 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know, oh gosh, what is his name now? I'm just blanking. The guy that had the spike ball on his left hand.
Oh, yeah, that is way further than I made it. Holy shit.
Anyway, like he came and like we partied together, and then like the next time he came to Albuquerque, he like text messages me. He's like, "You want to hang out?" And I go hang out with him, and like he's with this woman, and she's like really attractive, and I was like, "Cool." And so we all became friends, and I add them on Instagram, and my Instagram just immediately starts getting like spammed. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm thinking like, well, he's got like 800,000 followers. And my friend's like, she's got 2.3 million followers. She was a Playboy model. She was banned. She's banned at every Major League Baseball park because during the World Series, her and another woman flashed the pitcher like while they were pitching. So they're banned from every. So she's like huge. And I was like, oh, no idea the whole time we're hanging out. But that's Ming. That's how Ming is. Like, you hang out with those people, and you know.
That's beautiful. Well, give that dude all my love because he's great. That's
when he comes to town, we'll see if you want to hang out.
That's fucking. I'd love to, but that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's. Because I'm very interested because you've been doing it for so fucking long, and that has slowly become a goal of mine. It's like, okay, if I have one sponsor. That means I can get another.
Sure.
And then if I can get another, that means I might be able to get 3.
Right.
What if this like my goal for 2024 right now is to have this pay me as if it was a as a part-time job.
Sure.
Cuz I fucking treat it like it's a full-time job.
It is a full-time job.
You get it.
Yeah.
So with all the time that's put into it.
And that's what I was trying to say earlier. I was trying to you said it. Like, that's what people don't understand. In order to like do well and be successful, it has to be another job.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I'm still like learning the ropes.
Yeah.
And I'm still figuring out like
and they change.
And exactly. And this is based on like conversations I've had with other people. I'm starting to just accept the fact that the algorithm is ever changing, ever evolving, and to try to adhere to it and whatever.
The algorithm, what place you need to market yourself changes all the time.
Yeah. So
what you should spend your time on and what you shouldn't change it. It's crazy.
So I look to the major podcasts that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm just like, okay, I like these creators. I like the way they format their headlines. So I'm gonna start doing that. I like the way that they just do their kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna emulate, see if it works. And cause I plan on doing this until the fucking the wheels fall off.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you'll notice now, Rogan.
Yeah.
He's the only guy that does episode number blank. This guest. Every other podcast in the world is
I do that.
Right. But every other major podcast in the world is like subject line, guest.
I don't even do a lot of show notes. I hate show notes.
Meaning,
like, you know, like when you're putting up your podcast, you put the name and then it's like, you know, description of this episode. I'll put like, this person was on, we talked about this.
Yeah, that's what I put too. Is I put like,
I want you to listen to it. I don't want you to read the description and be like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I put the very basic stuff, and that's not even for YouTube. That's just so like Spotify when someone's flipping, it's like, okay, this person's a musician. This person is a.
You made me do more YouTube shit. For real?
What do you mean?
I was like, I saw your stuff on YouTube, and I was like, God, I need to like. We were on YouTube, and I was like, I need to like be more aware of like filling in my details on YouTube. You know.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, well, because
it was just kind of a secondary place people could watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I'm just looking to people that are already doing it, and I'm like, okay, well, what does that kind of look like? And then at the same time, I'm like, okay, going back to the full-time job part of it, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I put enough time into it, it'd be fucking nice. I never went into it for the money. Like, my mindset getting into this was, okay, because at the time I was working and I've told this story at fucking nauseum, so if somebody's listening right now, I've already heard it, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But I was working at a flooring company at the time, and I was like, okay, every day, the last hour and a half of the day when we were cleaning up, putting equipment away, that type of shit, I had an earbud in. I listened to a podcast, and I was listening to the first one that Rogan did with Post Malone, and I was like, okay, the first hour, maybe hour 15 is really cool insight into the guy's life, and like his touring and where did he get started. But the last 3 hours, they're just high on mushrooms, cracking a couple of beers, and talking about nonsense. It's like, okay, what the fuck do me and my friends do on a Friday night? We don't even get to like 3 or 4 games of Call of Duty until we're just talking shit to each other, especially during the pandemic. We'd just be sitting there just talking shit. So it's like, okay, what if you threw a microphone in the middle of it? What does that look like? And so then when I got into it, I was like, all right, well, do I know? So I know 10 people, but do I know 10 people that want to get recorded? Okay, awesome. Got through that.
That's the harder. Well, it can be a.
Yeah, right. Got through that. I was like, okay, we're going to take a month break, consolidate, look at things. What do clips look like? What do like posting reels look like? That type of stuff. I was like, okay, 10 more. And then I was like, okay, season 2's done. All right, no, what does season 3 look like? And I never stopped season 3 because, again, I try to say as much as I can. I feel like the most blessed fucking man on the planet because people just keep coming on the fucking show.
Well, okay. So for me, and this is my point of view.
Yeah.
And this is how I've seen things because, that's all I can do. Things have changed a lot in the last 8 years. When I started, getting people to do the microphone thing was a little tougher. Not everybody was comfortable with it.
No, yeah.
And in the last 8 years, the world has turned into this like, everyone has a smart. See, when I first started, people have smartphones. People have smartphones. They film themselves. They take selfies. They do TikToks. They do reels. So they're more used to it.
Well, people have a higher inclination of wanting to have significant presence online.
Yeah.
So like,
So that's changed.
Yeah.
So here's what I was going to go at, but then you kind of said it. I don't know if you said it, but you did. You started out here. And it was different from this, right?
Yeah.
The thing that I feel about podcasting, and people are like, you've done it for 17 years. How can you do it that long? Well, you have to evolve. Yeah. It's like comedy, stand-up. Everybody starts stand-up, they emulate somebody. They're like, oh, man, Sam Kinison or, I don't know, Matt Rife or whatever, somebody.
What ends of the spectrum those two are.
You know what I mean. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I love it.
I was trying to get somebody. I said somebody like way back and then
more recent.
More recent. But like, people like, well, if you ask stand-up comedians that are famous, you'll be like, when you started out, what was your voice like? And they'll say, well, my cadence and everything was a lot like blah blah blah, and then I developed my own voice. I feel like this is the same thing. Like you like Joe Rogan, it's clear, and like you're like, I want to do that. But at some point, and I think you have somewhat, like, you can't be totally that. You've got to be you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
like, I totally agree.
And that you today is not going to be the you in 5 years.
I hope not.
In 10 years.
For the better, I hope
so
not.
So it evolves. Like my show in the last 17 years has evolved so many different ways. And if it hadn't, I wouldn't be doing it. I'd be done. I'd be like, I'd have done because like some people do like 10 episodes and then they're like, that's the whole show. We did a podcast that was 10 episodes and we, it's cool. It's out there. And I could never do that. I can't, like, I need to constantly like do, I need to like, this is a little bit of therapy for me. This is a little bit of thing, but like, I want to be on the mic once a week. I want to be entertaining people, and naturally it just changes over time. I'll be like, you know what? I'm bored of that. I've got to change it a little bit. What should I do? And I don't really like watch other people. I'll look at, I don't know. It comes different ways. I'll watch a movie and I'll be like, or I'll see a piece of art and I'll be like, oh yeah. And it just inspires me to like move a different direction, whether that's a little or a ton. It just depends, It's very odd.
So do you feel like when you do your show, it's a bit of a reset, right? You could
every week,
not reset, like a grounding.
Yeah.
Or it's like, okay,
if we miss a couple weeks, then I'm struggling.
Right.
I'm like, I need to we need to do a show.
Because I've never been in your studio, but I would imagine that because of what's going on, this is my theory behind just why people gravitate to it, why a lot of people are doing it. I just imagine in your studio there's not a lot of people on their phones.
No.
I think that's the key component.
Right.
I really do.
It's not a conscious thing. Like, I don't tell them, like, it just...
But you kind of know not to. Well,
I would hope, yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? You kind of know not to because you're expected to be engaging. You're expected to contribute to this. Like, and that's why I love wearing headphones.
Sure.
Because you are hearing exactly what the listener is going to hear.
Right.
And so you know that if you're being a bad contributor, you know what's happening. So then at the same time, I just know that, like, for my day today, this is the most engaged I will be. Okay. Because right now, I'm not on my phone.
Right.
My phone is not my phone is
that's
right
a good
here,
point. Yeah,
and it's accessible. But, like, because of the way things have evolved, the way things have changed, and the way, like, we've become borderline symbiotic with these phones.
Right.
Right. Like, you go out with your buddies to a bar.
Oh, it's
whatever.
I'm that guy. I'm like,
it's like you catapult your input, and then you go back to.
Yeah.
You throw it back. Okay. Oh, yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, we'll go there. And then, you know what I mean?
In thinking about this is the evolution, right? Because when I first started, I'd have to tell everybody to turn their phone off. Because that's back when people would, like, download ringtones. And so you'd be sitting there, like, doing the podcast, and, like, Jay-Z would be all blasting all of a sudden. So that's the evolution. Like yeah. I don't even know anybody that, like, above the age of, like, 60 that has their ringtone on. Like, like, I was talking about this the other day on the show or on social media. I was like, do you guys, like, I rang your doorbell, but, like, I felt weird doing it. That's why I messaged you before I walked up. I was like, do people ring the doorbell anymore? Because, like, it's like this weird thing now where it's like, you want to tell people, hey, I'm here. And you're like, do I ring the doorbell? It's this weird, like, thing. And it's like ringtones are the same thing. So when I first started, it would be like, everybody's silent. And then, like, we're doing a podcast, it would go off. I'd be like, oh, your phone went off. So I didn't even think about it. See, the thing that I don't ever think about is people being nervous. And they'll be like, I was so nervous tonight. And I'll be like, oh, really? I'm sorry. I didn't even think about that.
How do you navigate that? Do you navigate that?
That they're nervous?
Their nervousness during the... I mean, I feel like you can kind of feel it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, I'm pretty... I don't know. That's a good question. So, like, I don't have that problem anymore. Like, used to, I've had the show, and I don't know if you've had this, where you have somebody on and they're like, yes, no,
not that bad. I've had like akin to that.
Yeah, so I don't have that anymore.
Have you had a conversation go where
I had a whole band on my show that was like that because they were all so high.
Oh no!
That after the first hour, we do 2-hour show. I was like, after the first hour, I was like, all right, guys, thanks. And I didn't. And then the second hour, we just talked about how awful it was.
And like, hey, man.
Yeah. And they were like, when's it going to be up? And I was like, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. And it was just terrible.
Interesting.
Like, I'd be like, what's a good band story? I don't know. We don't have any. Cool. When's the record coming out? I don't know. Cool. Yeah. Why were you here?
Well, it's okay. So it's funny you.
And I told them afterwards. I was like, that was terrible.
Oh shit!
They asked me when it was going to go up, and I literally talked to the guy. I said, I don't really think you want it to.
No. Oh, to protect your brand.
I'm like,
I'm going to go ahead and not publish this.
And they were like, okay.
Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, good for you.
Yeah.
How many years into it did that happen?
10.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's to the point now, like you say, I'm like kind of ingrained in the community, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody's coming on, they've either asked me or I've talked to them outside of here. I've gone up to them and talked to them.
Right.
I don't, and if it's like, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without sounding like a shithead. Like if I get unsolicited, like people that are like, I don't know them, and they're like, I want to be on your show. I don't respond to it.
Really?
Yeah. But what I will do is I will keep an eye on them. Like if usually it's musicians. Yeah. And I'll go watch them. And they don't know I'm going to watch them. I want to go see. I want to go see if, and then if I do like, it has panned out where I'm like, I go watch them and then I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't, if I don't know anything about you, what are we going to talk about?
Right.
And
well, then if you don't, the flip side of that is, if you don't know them,
Right.
there's so much to talk about because you
Right.
don't know them.
Well, yeah. I like knowing, at least some things. And,
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's why I say
Yeah.
that at the same time when I send out a small questionnaire.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That's to get like the nonsense out of the way.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I think that just so I can figure out what kind of beer you like. And you said the cheap kind of beer is like, all right,
Yeah.
that's my favorite kind of beer is the cheap
Sure.
beer. But,
No, yeah.
but for other people.
I just didn't want any IPAs.
No, yeah. So then for other people, I'm like, okay, well, what are you about? What kind of
Yeah.
stuff are you into? And then, I don't know. That's what I almost, don't get me wrong, I love sitting down with people I've known for years.
Sure.
But then at the same time, it's like if somebody brand new, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, shit.
No, I'm about that as well.
Where is it? And I'm going to say, yeah. It's like, where is this going to go?
But there's a lot of times we don't have guests. Like,
Yeah.
It's just the
Right.
three of us.
Yeah.
And those are more fun to me because I do know these guys and we can talk about, I don't have to ask them questions about their life.
Right.
We can just have a fun, like me ranting about how someone almost hit me in the roundabout because people in Albuquerque don't understand how a roundabout works.
That's a fucking fact.
Or how my neighborhood's getting gentrified, so my good burrito place in the South Broadway is getting. I'm sitting behind an Audi or in a Mercedes,
This is all I had.
Yeah,
You took it from
they
me.
would have shot you 5 years ago if you were there. Yeah, no, we have those. Those are fun to me. Like, and it's all tongue in cheek. It's like ridiculous, but
Yeah.
But I do like having a guest, and I'll tell them like before that. I'll be like, the first hour's about you, and I don't sit and just fire. We weave it. I weave it in and out because I love to go on tangents. Like I love tangents.
Yeah.
And in the second hour, I'll be like, well, we would like for you to stay, but it's going to be, that's where we have fun. And they're like, okay,
Yeah.
the wavy hour, It's where we're a little bit sauced, a little bit fun, And if you don't enjoy what you do, and then after it's over, most of the time, they're like, that was great. That was fun. They're like, okay. Yeah. See, because it turns it into this like really welcoming, fun atmosphere,
Well, it's legitimate connection.
Yeah.
And that's to kind of build on the lack of phone thing. Like I really do think that's why so many people are latching on a podcast so much. And I know you feel this is because I think the best podcast makes you feel like you are there in the room with the people having the conversation.
You're, like when they can't think of the name of something and you're like shouting at the radio, you're like it's Halloween 3, right?
Halloween 3.
Yeah, or whatever.
That is the one horror movie I refuse to watch.
You don't like Season of the Witch? Oh.
I don't know that I don't like it
I've seen it
because
many
I
times.
refuse to watch it because it does not have Michael in it.
Nope.
That is the only reason I have not watched it.
13 days till Halloween, 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 Silver Shamrock.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the ad with that.
Okay,
In it.
yeah.
And I've got it's funny because I have it on Blu-ray.
It's such a weird, like it was one of those things where they, like literally, I guarantee, somebody walked in with a script for a horror film.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, let's put the name Halloween on it.
Well, I mean, what the fuck was did you see Halloween Ends?
I've only watched like probably the first 4.
Okay, so Halloween Ends, the latest one that came out. That movie was, hey, we have a really great idea for a horror movie, but we don't know how to end it.
Okay.
Hey, we've got an ending for our Halloween trilogy, but we've kind of ran this ship a couple of times and we don't know how to get there. Let's just force it and make it a thing, and not good.
No, not good.
Not good.
I think I know what you're talking about. So I'm a big, like, if I know I'm not going to watch the movie, I'll go read the plot on like Wikipedia. And I'm pretty sure I did on that. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, it's fucking stupid. Like they introduce a character that has not been in any of the movies.
And all of a sudden he's like the bad.
It's like Michael Myers like transfers his power to him and then he dies.
Okay, I did read that.
It's so fucking bad.
Am I the only one that does that? Like if I'm like, I'm not watching
No, I have
movie.
friends that do it. And I used to hate them. I used to hate them, especially towards like the comic book properties. Like, no, don't tell me spoilers. But now,
no, I don't. Yeah,
but now the way things have gone, I'm like, at this point, like with the Marvels. I read spoilers for that before I went to. I'm like, I don't need to see the movie.
Yeah,
I don't want to sit through 2 hours.
Marvel's really gone in the dump, hasn't it? Sadly,
I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not true. That's not true. I know exactly what happened.
Well, everybody they became victims of their own success. They were so good.
Well, but Bob Chapek, I think was his name.
Someone left.
So the guy so it was Bob Iger.
Yeah.
He leaves. Bob Chapek.
Oh,
I think
that
is his
guy.
name.
Oh yeah. He was like we need
comes
to
in.
we need to make more money, and they
Exactly.
were just crapping him out.
And so he was like, no matter what happens when we get out of this pandemic, you are always going to have Marvel content,
Yeah.
which took away what I think was the biggest it factor of Marvel was that like you only got 2 or 3 of these a year.
Yeah.
So that when it happened, it was
it was a monumental
event.
I think a part of it too, and this could be my age. Like I grew up reading comic books, and for most of the Marvel phases, it was the stories from when I was a kid. And I feel like after Avengers Endgame, the Thanos stuff,
Yeah.
they've started to branch out into like past where I was, and I don't know those stories. And I wasn't a big Ant-Man guy. I don't think a lot of people were.
Nobody was.
Nobody was. I don't. Like there's people coming out like here's we'll get real nerdy for a second. Like Fantastic Four. Everybody's like, well, the first movies were not that good, and then the second one were awful. And I'm like,
I adore Fantastic Four, by the way.
okay. Let me see if
adore-
you agree with what I'm saying, though.
Okay.
So the Jessica Alba ones,
Yeah.
I thought were fun.
Yeah, they were fine.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because they were like the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four were the comic book was never like the edgy, crazy.
Yeah.
It was the Fantastic Four. They were like your kid could read it.
Yeah, it
It's
was
fine.
goofy, wonky,
Yeah.
cosmic. They
The
went off
thing
to
is
other worlds.
clobbering. It's clobbering time.
Yeah.
And it was, and so when those first 2 movies came out, people were like, ugh. And I was like, what? They're like, that movie wasn't good. I was like, that movie was the Fantastic Four. And the second one, the Silver Surfer, I was like, the only thing I didn't like about the second movie is the way they portrayed Galactus.
Yeah, a fart cloud.
Yeah. And I'm like, I thought they pretty much nailed the comic. Like, what do people want the Fantastic Four to be like that they'll like it? I'm like,
Well, in all fairness, I will say this. In all fairness, I'm in the minority, and while I enjoy like the Stan Lee era
Sure.
Fantastic Four, and I fucking adore the Jonathan Hickman Fantastic Four from like 2012, 2011.
I don't know that era. I just know the era that was like,
But I really like the Ultimate Fantastic Four.
okay.
I with the exception of the X-Men, I enjoyed the Ultimate Universe, like this original incarnation of it. I enjoyed that a lot.
See, that was after me. I don't know.
So
all that. Yeah.
it's fantastic. It has my favorite version of Spider-Man. Like Ultimate Spider-Man by Brian Michael Bendis
I remember that,
is amazing. And they are finally reprinting it into omnibus format.
Yeah.
And I'm picking those up and rereading them and finally getting into territory I didn't get to read because I was too young. I just didn't have the money to go fucking buy all those comics.
Well-
But anyway, my point is, when they did Fantastic Four with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan, so that took a lot from the Ultimate Fantastic Four. And I remember watching the trailer and thinking,
here we go,
this
yeah.
is like the darker version of them, but it's still like, this
Was
could be...
was that a dark version of the Fantastic Four, the Ultimate?
Yeah. Well, was it not...
I never knew they did that. So
I wouldn't say darker, but it was just, it was more like they tried to ground it in some sort of scientific reality rather than just like cosmic rays hit them and they become a thing.
Right.
Like, no, it was like, hey, no, they go to a whole other planet and then this happened and this, and like they tried to ground it. But God, that movie was so boring.
What did you think of She-Hulk?
Honestly, like, I'm torn on the women-centric stuff because on the one hand, I'm like, okay, this is getting a bit too corny and a bit too forced. But then on the other hand, I'm like, well, I'm not a chick, so maybe this isn't made for me. Because there's
I haven't
times,
thought about that. I just was like, when they did the whole fourth wall thing, which everybody's like, oh, well, she does not. But I also didn't read She-Hulk.
Yeah, she does that in the books. Like
Yeah.
even when she's in Secret Wars, back in the 80s, she breaks the fourth wall.
Okay.
So like for me, like I would watch. I watched all of She-Hulk. I could not get through Miss Marvel.
I couldn't get through it either.
I couldn't get through it.
I could not either.
But at the same time, I think the same.
I thought it was more of like for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like, I don't watch romantic comedies, so maybe there's something. Because I remember watching She-Hulk a couple of times, or through those episodes. I'm like, what? And a couple of times in those episodes, I'm like, that was clearly a thing, but it didn't resonate with me.
Gotcha.
So is that like, is this show just not made?
I just thought it was too corny.
Yeah, but then I will say, on the other hand, I thought it was hilarious. Daredevil doing the walk of shame
That was cool,
with his
yeah.
boots.
I
I
did
just
like
thought
that,
that
yeah.
was corny.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
It was
right?
funny. That was funny.
And
Yeah.
I think people take it to a way different extreme.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, they hate men and they this. And it's like,
Oh,
no,
I didn't.
dude.
I didn't see that.
Because like it's one thing if they just made Daredevil.
I didn't think about like it'd be like
Like
not-
just
yeah, I
like
didn't-
like
yeah.
some sort of like sex object thing that's not capable of being Daredevil, especially if we had 3 seasons of it. But no,
I thought they humanized them.
yeah, exactly. And then at the
Yeah.
end of She-Hulk, he literally has another hallway scene
Yeah,
that shows why he's fucking Daredevil.
right.
And so like with Marvel right now, I just think they thought they could slap their name on something, overwork VFX artists, and make a good project.
Well, and they
that's
don't even
not
do
the
the
case.
not all the VFX are good anymore.
Exactly.
They're like fucking them up, and it's like
exactly.
and it and it was weird because like I was trying to explain this to my friend. I was like, let me explain something to you. I was like, Marvel is making these like like Iron Man, the Avengers. I said, let me tell you something. When I was growing up in the 80s and early 90s, nobody was reading Iron Man.
Thank you.
Nobody was
tell
reading
this,
the Avengers.
The only reason my friends understand this, because I've told them this so many times, and they get it.
Yeah.
They get it. But
Yeah.
like other people,
Right.
yeah.
No one was reading that.
To live in a world where
Yeah.
Iron Man and Thor
Right.
were not the talk of the
No,
town.
fuck no, they weren't.
No, people only read Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, and maybe Hulk.
Maybe Hulk. Shit, what else was big? Preacher. Like all that. Like
Oh, that's like independent shit.
well,
though.
yeah, but it was like
Yeah.
Batman. Like for me, DC was Batman.
Yeah.
Like Batman was my favorite, and I when I got into comics was right before the Michael Keaton Batman, and that's when I met Adam West, and that Frank Miller, Dark Knight, all that shit, and Batman was the jam.
Yeah.
Killing Joke came out, all that. It was just crazy, like realistic and edgy. That's when what was that Neil Gaiman Sandman
And
was
Watchmen's around that time too.
Watchmen, all that stuff. And it's like you didn't read Thor and Iron Man because they were the old that's your dad's era, and you didn't. And people, and then my friend was like, well, why are they making the movie? And I'm like, because when movie companies came around for the rights, they sold the rights to all the big ones. They sold the rights to X-Men. They sold the rights to Fantastic Four. They sold the rights to Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man was huge.
Yeah.
He had like 4 different titles that I think he has more now, but like
You had the
It was
Amazing,
huge.
you had the Spectacular,
Web of Spider-Man.
Web of Spider-Man, the Tales of Spider-Man,
Spider Ham. Like I had to explain to somebody that wasn't something they made up for the movie.
That's actually a
That was
thing.
actually a character. They didn't make that up for the movie. That was really a character. Spider-Man was so big. Venom came out right around then.
Lethal Protector.
Oh
right.
man.
Yeah.
And so you didn't read Thor.
Yeah.
Thor was goofy. The only time you read Thor or like Iron Man is if they did a huge like Marvel crossover.
Secret Wars.
Secret Wars.
The Infinity
or
Gauntlet.
They did one.
Yeah.
They did one also where it was like all the villains got together and they switched heroes. And I remember like Spider-Man. Who did he fight? And it was when he got the cosmic powers.
Oh!
And he fought.
I know what you're, because Cosmic.
He
I know
fought
what
the
you're
Hulk.
talking-
They
yeah.
sent the Hulk out of.
I know what you're talking about.
And Spider-Man punched the Hulk into outer space, and then flew up and got him. Yeah, it was like it was crazy times.
Yeah.
It was crazy times.
And I think that you talk about the studios coming in and napping up the
Yeah.
rights. I think that's what happened with Marvel, and I think it was
So
the
they-
right thing.
yeah.
Obviously, when Marvel came in, okay, who do we have left? Okay, let's look at the major, the most the most famous comic book covers for the Avengers. Who were on the covers? We're
Iron
going to
Man.
start there.
Yeah, and they'd already done the Hulk. They'd already fucked it up like twice.
Yeah. See, and I was always a big fan of Lou Ferrigno's Hulk when I was a kid.
Have you met him?
Yeah,
He's a nice guy, yeah.
I met him once when I was funny thing, kind of like your story. I was a little kid. It was Albuquerque's first Comic Con.
Oh, nice.
And my mom had taken me
Aw.
because obviously she's a big fan of Lou Ferrigno.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just remember us walking up to meet him. And this is like maybe 10 years ago. No, over that. 13 years ago, around there.
Yeah.
Massive fucking dude.
Oh, yeah, he's huge.
And my mother is smitten. I'm like, oh my God.
if him and Sam Jones, you know who Sam Jones is? Sam Jones is Flash Gordon.
Oh, yeah.
If they are on the same Comic-Con, they work out together.
No shit.
Yeah.
I would kill to see.
And
Oh my God.
Sam Jones told this story. I saw them, and he goes, "It's great to work out with Lou." Because you go to the gym, and he immediately goes right to the manager. And he goes, hey, so we're going to come in here and we're going to work out. We're going to work out for 45 minutes. And we don't want anyone to walk up to us and talk to us. We don't want to take any photos. We're just going to work out for 45 minutes. When the 45 minutes is over, we'll talk to everybody.
Fuck yeah.
And we'll take all the pictures you want, but you leave us alone for that 45 minutes.
Badass.
And like Sam Jones is like his workouts. He works out in 45 minutes.
Intense.
He has like a 10-second cooling period from station to station.
Yeah.
It's like, geez. So I have a funny Lou Ferrigno story. So the first day of Comic-Con, I'm helping Ming with his booth, and we're next to the kid from Flight of the Navigator. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. And then 2 down is Mike Barnes, the bad boy of karate from the Karate Kid 3.
Oh shit!
You ever seen that movie?
I haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen the third Karate Kid, but I know who you're talking about.
Oh yeah, he's Mike Barnes, bad boy of karate. So I go, hey Mings, you see who's over there? He's like, who? I was like, Mike Barnes, bad boy karate. He's fucking mad dogging you. And he's just the dude's just sitting there. Yeah, so then later on in the day, I'm like, Ming, where the fuck is Mike Barnes? And Ming's like, I don't know. I was like, well, if you don't know, then he's out there. He's waiting. He's waiting for you. So we do this like for a couple hours. So finally I'm walking by and I stop and I go, I just want to let you know me and Ming are making jokes about you. And he's like, what? What are you doing? So I tell him and he laughs. He's like, okay, cool. So I walk away. So after the first day, we go up to Ming's room and we're like getting ready to go drink beers. And the fire alarm goes off. Well, when the fire alarm goes off, you got to leave the hotel, but you can't use the elevator. They shut the elevators down.
Right.
So we have to go down 7 flights, and it's January. We get to the bottom, and it's freezing cold outside. Lou Ferrigno is outside in a wife beater, shaking. And I'm like, and I'm standing next to him, and then I go, Ming, you know who probably pulled the fire alarm? And he goes, Mike Barnes, the fucking bad boy karate. And he's behind us, and he goes, all right, you knuckleheads, which one of you assholes lives here? And I was like, me. And he goes, I'm trying to get to this sushi restaurant. And it was like Sushi King on Central. And I was like, it's right over there. You don't need to take an Uber. You can just walk.
Yeah.
So he goes. So the next day I show up at the Comic-Con and Ming's like, dude, Mike Barnes did not like that sushi. He said he's going to fucking break your legs. And I was like, oh, really? So I go over and talk to him and he goes, hey, that sushi place was awful. And I was like, well, I didn't tell you to go there. Also, you ate sushi in the desert. And he goes, fair enough. And he goes, how was your dinner? And I was like, great. And he goes, fuck you. So then later on that weekend, I'm talking to him. And he's like, I'm going to autograph a picture for you. And it's like this picture. And I have it in the studio. And it's Daniel's son, like doubled over after he'd been kicked in the stomach by him. And he's like standing over him. So he circles Daniel's son. And he puts an arrow, and he says, you, fuck Chris Burnett, Mike Barnes, the bad boy karate. And I have it up in the studio. But Lou Ferrigno, we saw Lou Ferrigno freezing outside.
That is hilarious. Just his massive ass just vibrating.
Just like sitting out there like, whoa. And I was like, that's the Hulk, man. The Hulk's freezing. You guys are killing the Hulk.
Oh my dude. Okay, that is one of my first like superhero heartbreaks as a kid when I watched Hulk fall from that helicopter.
Oh man.
Come the fuck on. Come the fuck on. Amazing. Amazing. And then that was my first exposure to like Daredevil.
Oh yeah. The Thor was on the
and that version of Thor. Like so anyway, I think now to wrap this section of it up, I think what they have going wrong is they are focusing on, but it's like a lot of other companies are, so they are not alone.
No.
They are focusing on profit over quality.
Quantity too, yeah.
And for sure. And the quantity goes into that profit.
What do you think of the Star Wars?
I'm not the Star Wars guy.
I got you.
I got to be honest.
I think the
like I don't like the new movies. I think most of the shows are okay.
I think the shows are great.
Again, like I go to my roommates for Star Wars. Like I watched Kenobi.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I thought it was fine.
Yeah, the Darth Vader stuff is amazing.
Okay. The Vader stuff is amazing. Fine. Yeah, the Vader stuff is amazing. I think just the 6 hour.
Yeah.
Waiting
for the Darth Vader parts.
Yeah, waiting for but it was like the what's it called? It's like a video game term where you're just escort. The 6-hour escort mission for Princess Leia wasn't that fun for me.
That's that's fair.
But then at the same time, I love the Mandalorian. I thought the latest season was okay compared to the others, but I think the first two were bangers.
I think it's setting things up for other.
Yeah. Well, the season 4, quote unquote, is supposed to be a movie.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna be fine. I trust Favreau. I trust Dave Filoni.
I was gonna say it's Dave Filoni now.
Yeah, I trust those guys.
Dude, Dave Filoni's amazing.
But I have heard phenomenal things about Ahsoka.
Oh, you haven't watched it?
But I have also been told by, again, the people I trust, I've been told to not watch that until you know what's going on with Clone Wars and Rebels.
Right. And they're correct.
And so I want to do that justice beforehand.
I agree. I agree with them. I agree with them 100%.
Because
it's literally a 4th season.
Yeah.
Or a 5th season.
That's what they told me.
Yeah.
And see, I am so into Marvel and DC and some independent here and there. I'm so into Marvel and DC that I avoid Star Wars at all costs.
Okay.
Like, I'll watch the mainstream stuff and I'll I love the Darth Vader comic books. I'll read those.
Oh, yeah.
But the more that I get into Star Wars, I just see the plethora of entertainment that is just Star Wars. And I feel like Star Wars is the equivalent of Marvel and DC almost combined.
Okay.
And because there is so much there between the comic books and the video games and the TV shows and the movies and the books and the this and the that.
Well, when it was George Lucas, it is what you said. There wasn't all this stuff. It was like, oh, here comes a movie, and it was an event.
Right.
But to me, it goes back to that thing we talked about at the very beginning of the callback. No matter how good it is, a bunch of people hate it.
Oh yeah.
And their fans, I think the Star Wars fans are the most toxic. They're just crazy.
They can be for sure. I think what's hilarious is in the wake of the Kathleen Kennedy era, they all look back on the prequels like, maybe we were too harsh.
Right. Isn't that crazy? Like, so also it's like, well, there's two things. It's like people who are my age hated them. I didn't hate them, but I also were like, okay. And I look back on them better. But like people, we forget people now were kids when those movies came out, the second trilogy.
Yeah.
And that's the Star Wars movies they grew up with.
Right.
They love them. So when you see Ahsoka, and I feel that the person I feel like who got redemption is Darth Vader, or Anakin. What's his name?
Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen.
Oh, when I saw
Poor guy.
Episode 3 in theaters, that blew my fucking mind.
Yeah,
that blew my mind. It's like, oh, that fucker's Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Oh, like he's actually Darth Vader.
Right.
Now. Oh shit.
Well, and that's where you got to watch Rebels and Clone War, because Ahsoka was his Padawan.
Right.
And there's a whole like thing where she didn't know, and like they're combating in space, and she reaches out her feelings, and she goes, "Oh shit!" Like, and she realizes like, "Oh, Anakin is Darth Vader." Like she didn't know.
Oh.
And there's and like that kind of stuff to me is like, whoa, that's.
So I've had this conversation with my friends. I feel like a lot of what the newer Star Wars stuff is doing is almost making up for what the prequels didn't do.
Well, and it's like filling it in.
Yeah.
It's like you watch those, or not the prequels, but the newer ones. Like, I feel like the newer ones, you're just kind of like, well, where did that come from?
Well,
why is that a thing? Yeah.
Well, those movies are the definition, like 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
Those are the definition of movies made by committee.
And, well, yes. But I think what the new shows are doing, and like this is weird, is they're like filling in the details that got left out.
Yeah.
They're writing around it.
Well, because I remember,
in a good way.
Well, I remember in the latest Mandalorian season, they're talking about the cloning stuff.
Yeah.
Like, but separate from the actual clone troopers. So I assumed that they are slowly trying to explain why the Snoke stuff happened and why Palpatine's still alive.
And you can see it, like, in Ahsoka, it's more.
Okay.
You start to see it, you're like, ah.
They're trying to make up for the poor storytelling that's already been before them, so they have to make up the... Because, again, those are movies made by committee, and those TV shows are made by somebody who cares.
Right.
Well, also, of people that care.
And the other thing, too, is the TV shows are... so when Disney first got the license, they were like, okay, all these books that were written...
Legends.
Like, they're no longer canon. Fart, get away from us. And Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni came in and said... no. We're going to go back and we're going to tell those stories in the books, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like the whole Admiral Thrawn of Ahsoka. Those are all books. Those are all books.
Mm-hmm. The Thrawn trilogy I've been told to read that's really good.
Yeah. I mean, when it was no longer canon, you're like, well, great.
Right.
And Dave Filoni and them are like, no, let's bring that back. And I think that's awesome.
Well, I think that's because they were fans of the IP.
Yeah.
And they were, no matter how how well off they were or how well into the Hollywood industry they were still fans. And so in between making movies and pitching shows and whatever they were doing before Star Wars, those two guys were probably on a Sunday afternoon when they have them on a free time.
Yeah.
What were they doing?
Well,
they were reading Star Wars. They were playing Star Wars.
And where Disney, the corporation, saw those books and all that stuff as like a waste of time, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni were like, no. There's money there. We're going to show you there's money there. Yeah. Like this. Like, the sponsors were not there. All of a sudden, we're like, oh, wait a second. We're sitting here in your studio. We're not, this is DIY. This is independent. But we're going to show you that there's money here. We're going to show you that there's like a fan base that listens to what we say, or, we can influence them in a way. And it's kind of the same thing where those guys came in and they were like, everybody's like, oh, I don't know. And then The Mandalorian came out and I was like, all of a sudden Disney's like, hey, Jon Favreau, you now have a blank check. Okay, cool. I'm going to show you where the money is.
Yeah.
And that's, that's sad that you have to like, push that boulder up the hill.
Well, this is a lesson that studios are going to have to learn over and over again. And I think the most, next to that, the most like blatant version of that is what happened. And I've brought this up so many fucking times, but what happened to Justice League.
Yeah.
What happened to that between the studio panicking and then them using Zack Snyder's daughter's death as a way to get him out of the movie, and then bringing in Joss Whedon, and then the internet campaigning for the Snyder Cut, and then
let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
What do you think of The Flash?
God, the wasted potential.
Really? I thought it was good.
God. So I thought it was fine. Like,
I went in it with thinking it was going to be trash.
So I went in there hearing all this nonsense about it being one of the greatest things ever made.
I don't like the actor,
and all that stuff, and
not anything to do with like the
character, but just
no.
Yeah,
like I know he got in a lot of trouble outside of it. I didn't even follow that. I just don't like the guy, like the way he acts.
Okay, you just don't like Ezra Miller. Okay,
no,
I
think he sucks as an actor.
Okay, which is fair. And I
like the guy who plays him on the TV show. I thought that guy was
Grant
great.
Gustin. Yeah, he's
great.
amazing.
Fantastic.
I liked Ezra Miller in the Snyder Cut more than I did what's being dubbed the Justice League, the 2017 theatrical version.
Yeah.
Because in the 4-hour version, he's given a full arc, and have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay, so he literally saves the world.
Yeah.
Like he has a full arc, just like Cyborg, a full arc, and they're not wasted like the 2-hour version.
No.
So back to your question, I think it was because that movie had so many things filmed for it and taken,
it's crazy,
and taken away. Yeah. Like they're supposed to be like, so a buddy of mine who's actually a insider at WB, he was giving me live updates as things were changing. And he's like, yeah, dude, they have a scene now.
Yeah.
Like it went from, okay, there's a Gal Gadot scene. Okay, there's a Henry Cavill scene.
Right.
To, no, there is a scene where the full Justice League are together. They just filmed it. And then
gone.
And I don't know how to find it. I don't know if anyone will ever see it, but there is according to my buddy, who I trust, there is a set photo on the Flash of the entire Justice League together. So where it's like Ezra Miller, even Ray Fisher was there because he got blackballed by WB because of the things that he went out and said. Yeah. Right? Jason Momoa, Affleck is there, Cavill, Gal Gadot's there, and they're all in costume.
Oh wow!
Like being the fucking Justice League, but I don't know, like, because the one part of me looks at that movie and sees like what could have been, but then the other part of me looks at that movie and I'm like, I appreciate them trying. Like, I love the concept of all of the worlds or all the possibilities being like a coliseum.
Yeah,
and Barry has to look at which one to go to.
That was cool.
That
was the coolest part. Man.
Yeah, if you would have given me $100 million to figure out a way to kill the Speed Force, I don't know if I would have came up with that.
Yeah.
I think that's genius.
It was great, yeah.
I think it's genius watching, because it's something out of Crisis on Infinite Earths, where all of the worlds were crashing into each other and hitting each other. Is it a little sour seeing George Reeves' Superman after, like, that's arguably the role that led him to suicide?
Right.
Sure. Like, that's, there's questions there.
Sure.
And then there's questions about Christopher Reeve and then I forget the lady that plays the Supergirl. But,
Yeah.
like, seeing them together, that's strange. I just find that strange. And then the same thing with how the studios treated Henry Cavill, to see a CGI Henry Cavill. That's strange.
What about the Nicolas Cage? Man?
And then the Nicolas Cage thing is strange too.
That was amazing. I loved it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like, the spectacle of it is awesome. But then
Sure.
it's like, when you think about it longer than 10 seconds, it's like, well.
And the fact they put the big spider thing in it. Do you know the big spider?
Oh,
story?
yeah. Oh, yeah. With Kevin Smith and all that. And because
yeah.
that one producer was like, we need a big spider.
And then did it for Wild Wild West. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. I think
I enjoyed it. It entertained me.
Yeah, but I think there are also a lot of really good moments. Like there's a moment where the two Barrys are in the Batcave and they're talking, and the older Barry is like, you don't know what it's like to live without mom. You take everything for granted. You just think you think you're the shit. You think you're fucking awesome. In reality, you're an idiot. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm sure most people ages 28 and above would look at 18-year-old self and like, yeah, you're a fucking dumbass.
You're a dumbass,
you don't know anything.
You would, yeah.
And oh yeah, for sure. I look at my old self now and I'm like, oh fuck.
And I would also like to see a Flash story that's not Flashpoint.
Yes. Oh no, I agree.
Let's do some other. I mean, if the Flash has a huge history, let's do not just the Flash. I mean, that's constantly what
Yeah, something against Captain Cold would be cool, or something against like Gorilla Grodd would be kind of neat.
Well, that's why I like the TV show.
Yeah.
TV show was. I mean, they did Flashpoint in it.
Yeah.
But like it took them a while to get there. It was like, oh man.
But they knew that it was convenient for them.
Yeah.
They knew that, like, well, that's what bugged me too, was they said that it was going to reset the universe, but in reality, it posed more questions than answers.
What do you think about what's his name taking over? James Gunn.
The honest answer, I don't care.
Really?
Which really bums me out because I love these properties.
Yeah.
I'm never going to stop reading comics.
Sure.
I'm never going to stop.
I thought that Suicide Squad he did was amazing.
It was great.
And then
Peacemaker
is amazing.
I thought Peacemaker was sick.
Yeah.
My whole thing is and again, it's semantics
Yeah.
and it is very biased because I love the Zack Snyder era so much.
Right.
I hate the fact that Viola Davis is coming back. Margot Robbie's probably coming back.
Yeah.
That his wife is coming back. But then we're not getting Superman.
As a Batman fan, I just don't care enough about what's her name, the character Margot Robbie played.
Well, I
didn't grow up with her. It was a character they created for the cartoons,
right.
And,
Harley Quinn,
and everybody's just so about it now. It's like,
well, my whole thing is I don't want a young Batman.
yeah.
I thought because what I thought.
Oh, you didn't like the new one?
Pattinson.
Yeah,
he was fine.
I thought it was great.
I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah.
I don't like the main thing I don't like about that movie is his batsuit. I think his batsuit is fucking trash.
It is kind of, yeah.
Because and what sold it for me on it being the worst batsuit ever, worse than the nipples, and it's based on principle, worse than the nipples, is because there's a scene where he's walking down the hallway just eating bullets. That's not Batman.
No.
Batman is not the Terminator.
Well, and they were inconsistent too because he did that. But then later on in the movie, he takes a shotgun blast to the stomach.
And he just flies away.
No, it ruined him. Remember he had to inject himself?
And that's what I'm curious about. Was that adrenaline? Was that venom?
Was that venom? Right. But what I loved about that movie is it was very Batman Year 2, the comic.
Yeah.
And it was also, there was a lot of people that were like, well, it wasn't very much of an action movie. I was like, well, Batman's not always an action movie.
That's the point.
He's
the world's greatest detective.
Yeah, detective comics. He has Batman the comic, and then he has Detective Comics. He's the world's greatest detective, and I love that it the Riddler. The problem with Batman is you have the Joker, and the Joker's the upper echelon of his villain, and then the Penguin's up there, but the Riddler was kind of a silly, goofy villain. And the way they changed him, I was like, okay, I can get into a serial killer, but he's
I hated the way he looked, but I loved the idea.
I love the idea. I hated the way they looked too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the idea.
I love that it was Paul Dano.
Yeah.
I was totally into
Yeah, I
that.
thought he was fine. Like he
But,
did,
like,
he did- yeah.
I was stoked that they took that character and kicked him up a notch.
Yeah. They
like,
kind of had
yeah.
to match everything else with the Tony
Yeah.
Soprano version of Penguin. And,
Yeah.
they kind of had to. But back to what I loved about what Snyder did is you have an inexperienced Superman dealing with consequences,
Sure.
and then you have an overly experienced Batman dealing with his own brain.
Gotcha.
I loved that, and I
did too.
And I love the fact that throughout 75% of BVS, Batman is wrong.
Yeah.
He's wrong, and people
But-
look at that and they're like, "Well, Batman shouldn't be killing. He thinks Superman is evil. Why does he think he's evil? Because
He's got the ultimate power. Right?
exactly, because he's been doing it for 20 fucking years, and now he sees an alien that is burning down buildings and killed what he thinks is the last of his species.
Right.
Yeah, he's gonna say, "Fuck it, I'm gonna use guns now."
Right.
And that's why, like,
Well, if you're a Batman fan, you seem to be. It's like the thing about Affleck's Batman too is people were like shitting on it, and they were like, "Was he using gadgets and all this shit all the time?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because he's old."
that's also Batman. Though.
When he got old, he couldn't fight like he couldn't fight like a young man. He's not going to be going toe to toe with everybody. So if you watch like when he goes into that one scene where he takes down all those guys in that room,
In the warehouse.
most of the stuff he does is with his gadgets. And I was like, oh, that was a great detail.
Yeah.
Because he's old.
Well, he fights like the Arkham Batman from the video games.
Yeah.
And but I think
Yeah. Because he's old.
exactly.
You can't fucking go toe to toe with everybody when you're like in your 50s, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I loved the idea of them introducing these two characters and doing it untraditional, but the end goal is the same.
Right.
Like you see a redeemed Batman in the Snyder Cut. He's a leader. I like the change of Batman being okay in the Justice League because traditionally, and this is a very foreign concept for people, I guess. Because I know, like friends asking me questions about that movie was that Batman doesn't like being in the Justice League. He thinks the Justice League in of itself is a bad thing,
Right.
And that's why he does the Tower of Babel storyline from the 90s.
Yeah.
So then, to have them change that and he be the leader, kind of dug it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like especially if you look back at when those movies were coming out, 2016 and 2017, height of the MCU is going one certain way. They have their
Right.
formula that works. I think it would have been better for everyone if they would have stuck with it and done the darker version of the DC universe where it's like, okay, well, we saw what happens if Thanos wins
Right.
and it looked a certain way, but they fixed it. But the potential of Darkseid winning was going to be a desolate wasteland, like Mad Max version of the world that the Justice League has to be. Like, who doesn't fucking want that? But now, and that's why I don't care anymore. It's like, okay, I've lived in like pretty much anyone right now can say it's like I've seen so many reboots of Superman.
Right.
I've seen so many reboots of Batman. And people are still attached so much to Gal Gadot's version of Wonder Woman. It's like,
Right.
do we need another one? Why do we? She's in her late
Are they
30s.
Are they going to do a separate?
They're getting rid of everybody.
Oh,
And
I thought they kept her.
And that's my they're getting rid of her.
Oh, I thought they kept her. You sure? Okay.
And that's my issue with the movie is anybody or with the universe is anybody close with James Gunn is getting kept, but anybody close to Zack
Right.
Snyder is getting booted.
Sure.
And so it's like that's your diffusion
Answer?
system.
Yeah. Well, and it almost seems, and I don't know if this is a good thing, but it could be. Like he's starting like small. Like he's doing IPs. Have you noticed that he's like doing IPs that aren't well known?
He's doing unknown IPs.
I mean,
but
Suicide Squad and like Peacemaker are not big IPs.
right, but then you look at the cast of Superman Legacy,
Yeah.
and there's so many people in it.
Oh, I haven't seen any of
Yeah,
that.
so there's a whole laundry list of DC characters that are going to be in it as supporting characters.
Yeah.
That it's like, so we definitely have a Superman and we definitely have a Lex Luthor, but then why?
Oh, I did see. Who did they get for Lex Luthor?
the kid from the Menu,
Yeah. Yeah.
Nicholas Hoult,
Yep.
and he wouldn't have been my first choice. Fine, whatever. I think what they're going for is
Did you like Jesse Eisenberg as him though?
Honestly, yes.
I thought he was terrible.
I loved it because of what I saw what they were going for, though.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, so we're seeing the bratty, smart-ass kid who's jacked up on Red Bulls.
Yeah.
That is a tech dork. It's basically Zuckerberg, but evil.
Gotcha,
well,
yeah.
more evil.
Sure.
Right? So Zuckerberg, but more evil, but then he ends up becoming the villain of Lex Luthor in prison.
Ah, okay.
And when he gets out, because if you look at the Lex Luthor he is in BVS and the Lex Luthor he is in the post-credit scene,
yeah.
he is calm, collected. He is menacing in the post-credit scene of Justice League. When in BVS, he's like, "Oh yeah, you know?
Are you a
together.
Smallville guy?
Yeah,
You see it in January? They're like all going to be here at Comic-Con. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yep.
I will have to be there.
Superman and the guy that was Lex Luthor. And,
Yeah, he has a great podcast.
Yeah, love it. Actually, it's great.
I'm totally spacing.
Me too. I can't.
But I would love to. And it's funny you bring up Smallville. I think
Yeah.
that's what they're doing is they're looking back in the DC catalog,
Right.
like with the exception of Snyder stuff. They're looking at everything else and looking at what works. And they're like, okay, people loved a young Superman and Lex Luthor.
Right.
We're gonna do that again.
Yeah. Are they? That's what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I
Okay.
mean, Nicholas Hoult and David Cornsweet are the same age,
Yeah.
so I can't imagine they wouldn't be. But I personally, this is my own bias, but I love a Superman story where Superman is like in his primes, like mid-30s.
Yeah.
But Lex Luthor is like
Older.
10, 15 years older than him.
Yeah.
Because it's always with Superman, he's smart,
Yep.
but
also
he's
wise.
he's not like
Lex Luthor's like smart and wise,
Lex Luthor's smart and menacing.
menacing, but
Yeah, Lex Luthor is smart and menacing. Superman is kind and wise.
yes.
Right, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he has his own lived experience in Kansas.
Sure, yeah.
That makes him be more human. But Lex Luthor is on like the Bruce Wayne type intellect.
Yeah.
Where it's like he's so many steps ahead of Superman. So I love that when Superman has to leave his brawn to the side and figure out how to think his way out of a situation, which is why like Mr. Mitchellplex is so interesting to me.
Oh, that's it. Wow. I've not heard that character in a long time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why that character is so interesting.
Like you just said something that probably like 99% of the people out there
I
have no idea who you're talking about.
No idea what I just said. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
He has to say his own name backwards, but send him back to his own dimension.
Exactly.
That
So
was,
that's
that was
why-
some real nerd shit I just said right there.
Yeah, so that's what makes that character kind of cool.
Is that going to be in the movie?
I don't think so.
Oh shit!
But I wouldn't be surprised if it's
Yeah.
in the sequels of James Gunn being so weird. But my point is like I like it when Superman has a deficit of age
Yeah.
between his adversary.
Sure. Yeah.
I enjoy that. So I just and Smallville
it's
was
weird to
so
me-
fucking good.
Seeing Superman old because he shouldn't age really quickly.
Right, but I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't want to see a Kingdom Come.
That's cool. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if we're really, and I'm not going to do it immediately, but if this multiversal shit is here to stay,
I hope it's not. I'm tired of it.
I'll be honest, 10 years from now,
Yeah.
if we have to even rehash it, I would love to see Henry Cavill in a Kingdom Come Superman suit.
Yeah, you could. And that's possible.
Showing up and being like, hey, yeah, we conquered Darkseid. We beat him. What the like just like in Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
What the fuck are these new guys doing?
I'd like to see a Dark Knight Returns.
That is allegedly the only reason Snyder will go back to DC is to do a like panel by panel adaptation of the Dark Knight Returns.
When they made the cartoons, I was like, and then it came out. I was like, okay,
they
was
were
cool.
great.
Yeah, they were cool.
They were fucking
The
great.
Killing Joke one was not good.
Oh, why the fuck? Oh, that is such a Paul Dini thing. Why does Batman and Batgirl have to be into each other? It's a father-daughter relationship.
Right.
They should not be fucking.
No. But The Killing Joke was like one of the first edgy. I was like a teenager and that came out. I was like, whoa. Holy crap.
Well, that was one of the first censored comic books too.
Yeah.
Because they had to take out the Tunnel of Love shit with Barbara Gordon, where she was fucking naked.
Yep, where he shot her right in the pelvis, and like she's on the floor naked. Yeah.
Well, it's insinuated at least the Joker took pictures when he was raping her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I remember when I was a kid, I think I got a fourth printing of it. Like that's how popular that comic book was.
Yeah, I think I have I have like a second maybe or a third in like a little protective sheet and shit. Yeah.
I wish I kept all my comics. I had the original Death of Robin comic. I had the actual issue.
Shit.
I had Web of Spider-Man #1.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I left them in a house like in college. I was like, yeah, I had to move real quick, as one does in their early 20s.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. To answer your question in summation, I don't know. Like, I hope it's great.
Yeah.
I want this medium to continue. People predicting it for years. I don't want superhero movies to go the way of the Western.
No,
Right? Where you hardly ever see them ever again.
But
because
the corporations are screwing. They're
really
it up.
fucking it up.
And everybody's like, "Oh, we have superhero fatigue," and I'm like, "No, you have bad movie fatigue.
you have lack of creativity,
Yeah.
and then my real litmus test for where this is going is Invincible and The Boys.
I love
The
Invincible.
moment that those two start going to shit, then I'm like, oh, okay.
Those
now
are. Yeah,
we're-
you're right. I mean, I love Invincible. I think it's fantastic.
Have you seen The Boys?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I think they're both great.
They're
It's weird.
amazing.
It's weird how much they have in common.
Yeah.
And,
Well, they're the same critique. It's just
Yeah.
that Garth Ennis hates superheroes more than Robert Kirkman does.
right.
So, have you read the comic of The Boys?
No.
Dude, oh my God.
And it's weird because like I loved Garth Ennis.
Yeah.
Because I loved his Punisher stuff.
Perfect Punisher.
I loved Preacher.
Great.
And then I never read the Kirkman stuff. But what I love is that Amazon was like, "Oh, you wrote it? You're the showrunner."
Yeah.
Like,
Which is
what?
what they should do.
Yeah.
Which is 100% what they should. And
And that's why it's good.
so The Boys as a book is fine.
Yeah.
Don't hold it. If you ever decide to read it, do not hold it to the same candle as the show.
Oh, really?
No. That is one of the only adaptations, if not the only one. Maybe Kick-Ass is in this category too, where the adaptation is
better.
miles ahead.
Really?
Anthony Starr as Homelander, as you know,
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
Homelander in the book,
Oh, when they did who was the Captain America guy?
Soldier Boy.
Soldier Boy. I loved all that. I loved Soldier Boy.
They changed Soldier Boy. Wow.
Really? But I thought it was great.
So in the book,
Uh-huh.
the way you're introduced to Soldier Boy is he's been trying to get into the Seven for a long time,
Oh.
and Homelander keeps telling, "Hey, yeah, if you suck my dick, I'll let you into the Boys."
Jeez.
Oh yeah, let's fuck a couple of times. I'll let you into the
That's
Boys.
very Garth Ennis, yeah.
Yeah, because Garth Ennis hates superheroes.
Yeah.
Just to his core, he fucking hates superheroes.
Yeah.
And he's admitted that.
Sure.
And so that's why, like, I don't want to give any spoilers away because I don't know how the show's going to end.
Right.
But the way the book ends for The Boys, it's just, yeah, dude, we get it. You hate Marvel and DC.
Right.
Let it go.
Sure.
It's
That's absolutely what it is.
It's
Yeah.
fun. Don't get me wrong. It's very fun the way he writes it and the way it, but it's just nonsensical. You have to,
Sure.
you kind of have to leave a lot of things at the door. But yeah, Invincible's amazing. I'm working through the first compendium right now.
I've never read the comic. I know it ended. What I like about the comic, I haven't read it, but what I read is that it ended.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yes.
Like-
have you
like-
read The Walking Dead?
Have I heard The Walking Dead? Or?
Read it.
No.
Oh my God.
I started. I'm not a zombie guy, and it just
Okay.
got boring. The show got boring to me.
The book is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Really?
Like that
I started it. Yeah.
that was the type of shit that I would collect in the trades.
Yeah.
So I would buy 2 or 3 at a time because
Yeah.
I knew that if I sat down, I'd blow through it
Okay.
because it read like a damn movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And the way it ends is amazing.
Okay.
And obviously because they're doing all the spin-offs.
Oh,
and,
they've saturated that.
yeah,
so
they're going
much.
to milk it till it's done. But Kirkman
Yeah.
writing that book, like it makes that book was so good.
Yeah.
It excites me for Invincible.
I mean, what tripped me out is we had Breaking Bad here. Breaking Bad on a good like night that it was on would get like 4 or 5 million people watching it. Walking Dead was like 13, 14 million people.
Yeah.
This is cable.
Yeah, it was a cultural, like,
Yeah.
if you weren't watching The Walking Dead
Yeah.
every night, you were kind of out of the conversation
And
everywhere.
dude, networks aren't getting 13, 14 million people.
Nobody is.
No.
Podcasts are. To bring this full circle,
Right.
podcasts are.
Podcasts are. By the way,
no.
I get 13 minutes. No, I wish.
But that's like
Yeah.
that's a very good point,
Yeah.
is that was the height of cable television.
Yeah.
And it's ironic, I think, that cable television peaked with a zombie show because cable television had a zombie of what it used to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, that was, if you didn't know what was, I remember, this is something I will never forget. So my long time ago, it was the night that season 7 premiered when they finally killed Glenn.
Okay.
And
yeah, we beat him in the head with the bat. I didn't even watch it, but I know. I know what happened.
Yeah. So up until that point, I had been reading the books. I knew it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time, would eventually be my ex-fiance, but I was with her and her family at the time watching The Walking Dead. And they were all into it. I was into it, but I didn't, but none of them read the books.
So you weren't going to spoil it.
I didn't spoil shit.
Yeah.
So when the way the shit goes in the show is they kill Abraham, the redheaded guy. Mm-hmm. And I was surprised. I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. That's a good deviation. We'll see where this goes. But then 30 seconds later, he turns around and whacks Glenn. They shrieked in fear. I was like, yes, that's what I've been reading. And they looked at me with disgust.
Like, what's wrong with you?
They're like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break up the family.
I was watching Game of Thrones with a friend of mine who reads the books.
Oh, shit.
And she was at my house, and it was during the Red Wedding. And after it happened, she was like, I didn't want to spoil it for you, but I've been waiting for that. And she's like, and it was as fucked up as it read.
Really?
And did you watch?
Yeah. No, I've made it up to season 5 of Game of Thrones, around there.
Here's how I feel about that show. Like, I envy that you're watching it.
I dropped it.
Okay.
No, I dropped it years ago because I started watching it about 9 months or so before it ended.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, I'll catch up and I'll do the thing. But then like work got in the way and life got in the way. But as I'm still watching it, the show ended. Mm-hmm. And I heard all the criticism of the last season. And then I heard how it ended. I was like, oh.
It's terrible.
I don't really give a fuck that much.
And I feel like, I've sat and argued with people. And I'm like, what was the point of the whole series if that's what they ended it with? And yeah. Anyway, something else.
What do you think about us having the Jesse Pinkman and Walter White statues? That was interesting.
It is. It's okay. I don't know, man. I was very connected to that show when it was going on. I have a lot of friends that were a part of that show. I have friends that were in the show.
Yeah.
One of my friends was Combo. Did you watch it?
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And so a lot of it was really cool. And I got into it as much as everyone else did. But it's to me, it's another IP. And then when it's over, I look back on it fondly and I move on.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's too many people that just won't let it go.
Yeah.
It's just their life.
Well, do you think that's a symptom of just New Mexico not having a lot?
Yeah, it's part of it.
You know what I mean? So when we do have the one thing that's not the balloon fiesta or red chili, it's like, oh my God.
There's a couple of things. It's people who see the money in it.
Yeah.
The people like you say, and because like there's people, and I don't want to mention names, that are associated with it, who I've met and didn't even like the show, but when people come here, they're like, oh, I have to go to this place, and they didn't even watch the show. And if they did, I asked them. I was like, "Oh man, you love?" I don't watch that shit, but they're associated with it. Like they make lots of money off of it, and I'm like, okay.
An actor in the show?
No.
Okay, never mind. So my brain went one way. So okay.
No, business.
Okay.
But okay.
Yeah.
And but I've had friends that have done really well off of it, but they moved on. I mean, but I feel like and like you have this whole like. People that are like, oh, it makes our town look bad, and I'm like, I don't care about what do we make our town look bad? I mean, Albuquerque, we didn't need a TV show to do that. It's like which there's, and I love this town. Like I love Albuquerque, I love living here, but we don't everybody's like, well, Breaking Bad posts Albuquerque in a bad light. I was like, well, apparently it didn't because everybody's moving here.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think it put us in a bad light. I mean, do I love the fact that we have statues in like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce where the fuck it's at?
No, it's in Civic. It's in the Civic Center.
Okay, in the Civic Center. Okay, akin, I guess. Do I love the fact that we have statues made to fictional meth dealers?
Right.
No. I mean, I think it would sit a little. I'll be honest. I think it would sit a little bit better with me if we had like a media center where that was. You know what I mean?
But and maybe they'll move. I mean,
because at least Philadelphia
has Rocky,
immortalizes fucking Rocky,
and then Detroit has a RoboCop.
Yeah, do they really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I'm like,
RoboCop is like a sweet spot in my heart.
It is for me, and it isn't,
fucking-
because it's like I love the original RoboCop. That new thing they came out with, I was like, what
The reboot
fuck
wasn't
is-
great.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, the reboot
But, like,
wasn't great. Yeah.
But like, you know, I look at it as the same thing. It's like these characters are synonymous to the city, and everybody's like, well, they did it in Albuquerque because of the meth problem. I go, no, they did it in Albuquerque because it was cheap. The actual original city was supposed to be in California,
Yeah.
and it was going to be the same show, but just somewhere in California. And then they were like, oh, the studio was like, you should film it in Albuquerque because it's cheaper. Had nothing to, like, everybody's like, well, you got a meth problem. Everywhere has a fucking meth problem. Like, you know, and if you were saying like, first of all, large cities are not the meth problem. If you like Portales, New Mexico, or Clovis, New Mexico, that's where the fucking meth problem is. It's not here.
I mean, fuck Las Vegas, Farmington, Hobbs.
All those, yeah, there you go. Every small town in America has a meth problem, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, I'm fine with the criminal part of it. I feel bad, like, for the people that owned the house, because I don't think they knew what they were getting into, you know?
Didn't they have to put like
A fence.
fence around their shit and signs saying "Don't throw pizza on this house"?
And if you go to Java Joe's, like on a Saturday morning, and you eat outside, they'll drive by and stop and take pictures. Like, you're out there eating, and they're like taking pictures of you out front. Like, you're like, oh, okay.
What landmark was?
Tuco's lair.
Oh, right.
They blew the windows out of it and everything.
Right,
the first season,
right.
So they pull up in the RV and the trolley and take pictures. I live right down the street, so. And it's funny because, like, my mom and dad really got into it, and they were like, it was like they were like, we want to come up there, and like, will you drive us to all the places? And then my dad wanted to go to the car wash, so we're driving and we pull up, you know, the duplex where him and what's her name lived next to door. Yeah. So we pull up to that.
Jane.
Jane.
Right? Yeah.
And it's in the student ghetto over by the university, right? So we pull up, and my mom rolls the window down, and these teenage guys are outside, and they knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And the guy looks over and he goes, "What are you looking at, bitch?" And my mom starts clapping and laughing. She's like, "Yes." And I was like, I thought like my dad was gonna flip out, you know, and it elevated the experience for them, and they drove away, and they're like, "That was great." And I was
They
like,
have. She went back. They have reenactors.
yeah, that was great. And it's funny. Like, I lit like his parents' house is over by me, like, because it's in the country club area.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, because like it was funny. Like as I was watching, because I started watching that show after the fact, like after it ended, right?
And there's so many people that are like, "I'll never watch it. It just got blown up too
Which
much."
I think is stupid.
It's so
because
dumb.
it's so damn well made.
If everyone's talking about something, it's most likely good.
Yeah. Oh,
you know?
for real. And so what was funny is like as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, like the dam off of Wantabo.
Yep,
Like I've gotten fucked up there a couple of times.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome. And then like the car wash he works at that looks like a roof, like that's across the street from Comic Book Warehouse. And
what blows my mind is they like someone bought it, renamed it, and painted it. Like, why would you not capitalize on that?
Mr. Car Wash,
Yeah.
that chain that took over Octopus. Yeah, a bunch of fucking idiots.
Stupid.
One funny thing, talking about movies that were filmed here. One movie that got filmed here, and I watched them film it, and I'm sad it's never coming out. It's called like Wile E. Coyote
Oh, it's
versus
coming out.
Acme.
They changed their mind.
They did.
Yes.
Oh, good.
There was a huge backlash.
Yeah.
And they decided that they were going to, the Acme movie.
Yeah.
Where he's like suing Acme.
I think that's fucking genius because I remember they literally filmed. So Will Forte plays the lawyer.
Yeah.
His law office is literally right next door to Comic Book Warehouse, which is where I've been going since I was like 8 years old to get comics. And so I walk in, and Eric, one of the guys that works there or owns the place, he was like, "Do you know what they're doing next door?" I'm like, "I have no fucking idea." He's like, "Yeah, they're filming this movie. This is what it's about." I'm like, that's Will Forte.
They shut downtown completely down. They paid all of the businesses. They paid Sister. They paid Launchpad to shut down.
Yep.
That's a lot of money right there.
Fuck yeah, it is. So I'm very glad to hear it's still coming out.
Yeah.
Because the concept alone is hilarious.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I obviously love watching movies that were filmed here. It's like, hey, that's this or that's
and
that.
it's a very like Roger Rabbit-esque thing where it's like live action cartoon.
Did you ever watch Looney Tunes Back in Action?
I don't know.
With Brendan Fraser?
No.
Dude, I rewatched that like 4 months ago because that randomly popped up on a streamer for a couple months. What a fucking movie.
Good?
I forgot how good that movie was.
It's weird, like these IPs that have disappeared and they're like maybe slowly come back. I want the Muppets like to come back. I want like they did so pre-shutdown.
Yeah.
They did a Jim Henson exhibit at the museum.
No shit.
And I went, and there's like things, like there's a lot of things in my life where like everybody's like, oh, you go and it'll like take your breath away, and you're like, okay, and then you do it, and you're like, eh. I went to that, and I didn't even know it would, and I was like, I saw like the Kermit the Frog Muppet, I saw Scooter, I saw Miss Piggy, and I was like, holy shit. Then I saw the David Bowie outfit from
not Dark Crystal.
No,
from
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth.
And then like her dress, and it was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, this is my childhood.
Did they have any of the horror stuff there? Because Jim Henson...
They had the Skeksis they had from Dark Crystal.
Yeah.
They had, oh God, what was her name? From Hagrid, I think is her name. She was like the, I can't remember. She's like the troll lady. They had, I'm trying to remember, but, the thing that was really cool is like when you watch Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Right? You think like there's literally like 4 or 5 Muppets that they use. And then they have and this blew my mind out of my head. They have a versatile Muppet, and they have 3 different kinds, but the big one you would remember is a blue one, and he's just like a chubby. It's literally like a chubby form, with a mouth, and that's it. And they would put different eyes and hair on him, and different shirts, and then he would be different Muppets. And they had different pictures of him, but they had the Muppet there, and they had like the different parts that went on him, and I was like, shit. I thought those were all different Muppets. I was like, as a little kid, I was like, oh, yeah, it's a different character. That one's got a mustache. Nope, same frame.
It's vaguely rattling something.
He's blue. He's like blue and fat.
Yeah.
And it was like whatever they needed. And they showed this movie there, and it was really, here was what was crazy to me. Like, I go, and I'm on a date, and I'm like there, and there's like people my age, but they have their kids. And you're thinking like, oh, this is perfect for the kids. Well, it's not. This isn't their like
right. That's
thing.
not what they grew
this
up
isn't,
with.
This isn't like SpongeBob or Bluey or whatever. So then like they had a little area where they were showing a movie, and the kids would come in and sit down for like a minute and then get up and run away. And then people were like, I should take my kids to that. And I was like, they're not. You should go to that. And like they had this whole thing where they were showing like there was a Viking ship, and they were all Vikings on top of it, and they were singing. Right? And then they pan down and they show the dudes, and they're like laying underneath, and they have like one arm up, and they have headsets on so they can sing, and each one has a monitor so they could see what they were doing. And there's like 5 of them underneath their ship, and I was like, Jesus.
But you got to see them do that while they were
filming. It was like a video, a movie.
puppeteering.
Yeah, it was a movie that they showed, and it was like, whoa, it was crazy. And then they showed like the evolution of Kermit, like how he was on his arm, but then like later on, they'd created this like remote thing where he would put this like basic mouth on his hand, and they could have Kermit sitting anywhere, and he would do this, and it would like do the mouth of Kermit,
mimic almost.
Yeah,
interesting.
And they had created all this stuff, and like it was just amazing to me because it was like people just don't innovate like this anymore. They don't, expand things like this anymore. Like they just don't. It was so amazing.
Well, and that's why you have issues like we were talking about earlier, right? Where you have they're just CGI slogfest.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, so like I brought this a little bit earlier, but that's what kind of blew me away with the movie, like When Evil Lurks, is because so much of like there is one blatant thing that happens at the end that is CGI, but it's like purposefully like Uncanny Valley type shit.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is practical effects.
That's amazing.
You know what I mean? And that's what adds so much value to something like that, rather than these big budget shit.
Mad Max Fury Road.
Yep.
Dude, I think Mad Max Fury Road is a modern masterpiece. I don't go to the movies and see a movie very often. I sure as hell don't go watch it multiple times. I saw it 3 times in the theater.
Nice.
And like I'm like, these are all stuntmen or Cirque du Soleil performers when they did the pendulum stuff.
Yeah.
And the CGI they did in it was her arm and then like that dust storm. And that was it. I'm like,
wow.
How amazing that movie is. And I'm super excited for the new Furiosa one.
I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm holding my reservations. I'm glad.
It's still him.
Yeah. I'm glad that George Miller is still doing it.
Yeah.
Again, biased.
Yeah.
I wish that his Justice League would have been made, but you know,
Oh, that's
neither
right.
here nor
I
there.
forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
back
they cast it, didn't they?
Back in 07, 08.
Oh shit, I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
But, you know, I'm interested to see what it is with Furiosa. It looks a little corny,
Yeah,
but that's okay.
He's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Mad Max.
Yeah.
We'll see. We will see. Like, I think that was the big.
I mean, to go from not being able to cast Mel Gibson anymore and
Yeah.
still make a great fucking. I mean, Tom Hardy though. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
No, he was great. And I don't know, like I really do think that because of how much of a turn Fury Road took from something like Thunderdome
Yeah.
and it still be amazing.
Right.
I'm very excited to see what they do with Furiosa. Yeah, if it wasn't George Miller,
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, go fuck
Hell,
yourself.
I even liked the video game they came out with.
I did too.
It was great.
The Mad Max video game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm fine. What I really like is you have these IPs that are old and like they're coming back. Is when somebody, like, you can tell somebody took over. Like, for example, the Cobra Kai. You can tell.
My friends will not stop bad. When that new season came out,
Yeah.
they kept telling
Oh, you haven't watched it?
No, I haven't.
So Cobra Kai is the perfect example of somebody that grew up with it, passionate about it, loves it, and was like, you know what? I want to make that, but I don't want it to be black and white. I want to flesh everybody out. I want you to like get into the characters. I don't want you to think Johnny is a bad guy, Daniel good guy. I want there to be gray and like the fleshing out of those characters. And what happened? People love that show. I mean, it went from YouTube.
Literally a YouTube project.
Yeah, YouTube project.
To a multi-million-dollar Netflix show. Yeah.
Yep. Revitalized all those guys' careers.
Yep.
You know, and there's twists and turns, and you're like,
Well, and now Jackie Chan and old boy
Yeah,
are making a new fucking
that's right.
a new fucking
Karate
movie.
Kid, yeah.
New Karate Kid movie.
Yeah, but it all it took was, I guarantee, and I don't know this for a fact, was somebody who was like, man, when I grew up as a kid, Karate Kid was the best movie ever. Now I'm a writer, and I want to, you know, the only thing I don't like about it is the characters are a little too, you know, black and white.
Yeah.
Let's flesh it out, and you know, because we live in that era where we like that. We like everything a little more fleshed out. You know,
Yeah.
we want Superman to, like, you know, be sad every once in a while.
Well, I mean, for fuck's sake, if
Yeah.
the guy doesn't know how to fight and he knocks down a couple of buildings, don't you
Yeah.
think he'd be regretful about that?
Sure.
He's not going to stand up on a rooftop like
I won.
Yeah, he's like, no, like, do people even want me here?
Right.
That's what I loved about Cavill.
Yeah.
I love that shit. So one thing I wanted to ask you before we get out of here is talking about, and I think that's a good segue, fleshing things out. You've been doing this shit for 17 years.
Yep.
What keeps you going, and what is something that you see the podcast turning into? What is something you see it as continuing to evolve as?
Okay.
How do you continue? Because we talked about one of the themes of this podcast, I guess, would be evolving,
Right.
changing
Evolution.
with the times,
Yeah.
being open to interpretation. So how does that apply to the pod? And then like, if you were to flesh that out in a certain way, what could that look like?
I don't know. So it's weird. I've thought about this a lot in the last, 17 years is a long time. And then you've got that 20 that's kind of, this will be 18 in next summer. So 20 is kind of around the corner. And it was funny, like Amanda Michonne and I made a joke that, like,
Love her, by the way.
Yeah. In 3
That
years.
is one of my favorite episodes I've done this year
Oh, yeah. Nice.
with Amanda.
She's great. I've had her
she's
on the show
amazing.
many times. And it's like we've kind of talked about, like, maybe in 3 years we'll go out, we'll go out, go out to pasture together. But I just don't know if I could end it. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. Like I definitely, like, reminisce every once in a while and think about, like, 17 years ago, like, what it was like and how different things are. And if in, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, how different things will be. And it's like, will podcast be the media at that, the medium at that point? I could still be doing this, but, like, no one else is, but I'll be doing something. Like, I don't know what the evolution, because, like, the evolution to me was me and my friend and my girlfriend sitting in our house in the north side of Portales, talking about pop culture with our show notes that we didn't ever use. And that's grown into like, now it's, then we would, I would have to put the song at the beginning. I would, because I didn't have any way to like fire it up before now it's a live show where people can chat with us while we're doing the show.
Yeah.
It's very user friendly. It's very fan friendly. Like if you want to sit and talk to us, like if you can, and I'll read it, and I'll add, it'll add to the show. It'll change the show. Someone will come in and ask a question in the chat, and we'll put it on the screen, and it'll divert where we go, and I really enjoy that. I really, it's really where the day takes us. Like people go, how do you prepare for show? And I go, I don't really, I know about the guests and I know about some questions I'm going to ask them, but they could bring up something and I'll be like, oh, speaking of that, and it could take everything a whole different way. And I don't ever want to change that. I like that it's just spontaneous and fun, and I really enjoy what it is now. But I mean, what it's going to be in the future, I really don't know. I mean, I have no clue. Like I let it grow on its own. It's an organic thing to me, and a co-host come and go. Billy was, my friend Adam did it 4 years with me. Billy did it with me for I want to say 12 or 13 years. Damn. Smiley's been there 10 years, I think now. And Smiley wasn't even supposed to be on the show. He was our producer, and we just had an extra microphone one day, and I was like, well, I'll set it up for him, and it just happened. And the funny thing is I'll get one of the biggest criticisms I get is people go, you need to let Smiley talk more. And it's not me. It's him. He doesn't add unless he wants to.
Yeah.
And then it's crazy, And people think that I'm just like stifling. I'm not stifling him. That's why people like him, because he's crazy, And it's like, I just love the organicness of it. And whether I ever like make, like I get where you're at. You're like, I want to, do the sponsors and, make a lot of money. I would love if that happened. I just don't want them to come in and be like, well, here's what we'd like for you to do. I'd be like, no. Yeah, I'll put your name on the front of it, and I'll say your product, and I'll talk. A lot of times, too, there's people who want to sponsor that I don't like what they have, and I'm not going to.
Well,
tough with me.
Well, I mean, it's the age-old question of like, I would never get corrupt if I became a politician. I was like, well, yeah, bitch, but you've never seen fucking $500,000 in a briefcase.
Sure haven't.
So this like same thing with a fucking sponsor. It's like, no, I will never sponsor a product I don't like. I was like, well, bitch, you ain't never seen $20,000 every month, have you?
I mean, if someone wants to give me $20,000 every month, I might do it. Yeah.
Well, right, but it's like, okay. You would think that the point behind a sponsor is that it's a product that you like.
Right.
Like that's why right now the only two sponsors that I promote and the only one I have an active ad spot for
is this one?
Is Chopped Chili. My only active ad spot. And then in the description, I'll still throw in organic price books because my buddy JP runs that online comic book store, and I'm a dork and I buy comics from him. Yeah. So why the fuck
I promote several things at like our break, and none of those people pay me any money, but they're my friends.
There you go.
I'm really big about like promoting my friends.
Yeah.
And pointing people towards my friends. And, because it costs me nothing.
Right.
And it helps them.
Yeah.
And like someone the other day pointed out something really good. They're like, if you have a lot of friends on Facebook and you have a friend that has a small business, go to their business page and invite all your friends to it. It costs you nothing.
I agree.
And I was like, oh, so I did it for my friend. And she was like, I was like, did you get any new likes? And she goes, I got a bunch out of nowhere. I was like, yeah, I invited 3,000 people to like your thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, why did you? Like, because why not?
Because why the fuck not?
Yeah.
I do that. Yeah.
Shit, yeah.
If I see a new bit, like my buddy that I used to be in the guard with, he started his own trucking company.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, bet. Okay.
Cool.
Easy. It takes 30 seconds.
It takes 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And if it's a place that your friend does something really good, why not? People can go. My friend owns a sign shop. They make all my stickers. She makes all my stickers.
Nice.
So why not point everybody that way?
Yeah.
Go get stickers made there. Go get posters made. Fine art prints made there.
Yeah.
So why would I not do that? So I don't know. I feel like it's really crazy. So like at the end of the day, has what has the show done for me? I mean, it's taken me places where I never thought I'd be. You know, I'd be sitting in like the owner's box at the Isotopes, or I've been in. There's a place where in the football field where the Lobos play. I didn't even know it existed. There's like in the end zone, like there's a theater area in there. Like you go in there and it's like theater seating, and the glass is tinted so you can't see through it. I sat next to Steve Alford in there and like watched the Lobos play and ate vanilla bean sundaes. I got to be part owner in a
fanciest of fucking that vanilla bean right there.
Yes. And like I've got to like I'm a lifelong wrestling fan, and because of this show, I'm a part of Duke City Championship Wrestling. I was a part owner for the beginning of it, and I had to step down. My father got very ill, and I couldn't do it. But I'm going back. I'm not going to be an owner, but I'm going to be a part of it again. And I mean, I
saw you announcing, right?
I was the commissioner.
Yeah.
And I got to be in the ring, and the guy. Yeah. So the best thing ever. This is literally a high point in my life. Is like when they were trying to phase me out because I had to step down. I was like I need to go take care of this, and my father ended up passing, which was a real rough thing. It was like about three months ago, so it was really rough. But like they're like, okay, here's how we're gonna write you off. Like you're gonna come out like the villain guy is gonna call you out and say that you're corrupt. I'm like, okay. Then he's gonna call you. He's gonna challenge you to pick a wrestler, and he's going to pick a wrestler, and whoever's wrestler loses, that person has to leave. I'm like, okay. So then I'm talking to the guy who writes the show. I was like, let's do something fun though. And I'm sure he hates that when people like add to it.
So your ideas were cool, but what if they were fun?
No. I said,
yeah, no, I get you.
I said, let me add to it. And and of course he's like, okay. And I said, here's what we're going to do. Like, I'm known for like my glasses. It was like kind of the signature thing. I was like, I have, this is like one of 3 pairs that I have. Well, not anymore. But I was like, okay, I'm going to wear like one of my older pair, and you have him take them on my face and just break them and throw them in the crowd. And he's like, okay, you're fine with that? I'm like, yeah. And then I'll take another pair out and put them on and then answer him. And he's like, yes. And so that's what you probably saw. So we did that. It was my idea. And like, some people I could tell, like, so one day I'm like sitting in Launchpad and someone walks by and they're like, you got new glasses. And I didn't know what they were talking about. I was like, what? Like, you got new glasses. And I was like, and they're like, that guy. And then they go, that guy broke your glasses. And I was like, oh yeah. You didn't watch the whole clip, did you? And they're like, no.
You didn't watch the whole clip.
But I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I didn't get new glasses. And more people responded to that clip than it was. Yeah. So it's gotten me to places that I never thought I would be. And I get to do this. Absolutely a blast. If they said, we're not going to pay you, I'd be like, okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
I get to go out and be in a wrestling ring and do fun, stupid things and talk on a microphone. And I was the commentator. I don't know if I'm going to be the commentator again, but I didn't want to be the commentator, but I actually enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to, but I did. But see, I've been watching since I was 5. So like, I know what I'm supposed to do. It was really weird. I was like, as soon as I sat down, put the thing on, I was like, pfft. And I was like, oh, collar and El Tybo. And he's like, throws him into the corner. Oh, the crowd is really giving him the business. I was saying all the things you're supposed to say. And it was like really weird. It was like, oh, wow. Interesting. So I wouldn't mind doing that again. But
you've got the voice for it.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I tell my girlfriend, I'm like, you know what it's like behind the scenes? She's like, what? I'm like, it's like putting on a play. It's really weird.
Yeah. I'd imagine so.
It is. Yeah. It's totally that. Like it's like, and then because like everybody's backstage and they're like, okay, I'm gonna, and then someone's like, okay, when I say this, you say this, but give it a beat, and it's really interesting. It's like, and then you get back in the back, everybody's like, great job. It's like really very like a play.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole backstage area.
That's fucking hilarious.
It's super fun. It's yeah, and I wouldn't have got there if I without all this stuff. I can't even think of all the things I've done. I mean, I've got to do some really fun shit, bring up, the Tenacious D thing. They were like, hey, we want you to do this. Oh, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it, And I didn't get to do it because I wasn't ready, but another band asked me to sing lead on a song that night. And I found out the day before, and I said yes, and then I just couldn't get it. And I said, I can't do it. I'm not going to get up there and just fuck this up.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this would be fun to, and I'm not a good singer, but it would have been.
I join you in that.
Yeah, and it would have been fun, but I hope this takes you where I've been, and I hope it takes you farther. That's where I hope, man. But the ride I've had has been a blast. I could write a book of all this shit.
That's fucking awesome.
Maybe I will. So
you should. That's fucking awesome.
But,
and I appreciate that. That's
super awesome. It's a blast. And networking is the key.
Yeah.
So
yes, I could go on for the 3 hours about how important that is to all.
Absolutely.
I say it all the time. Like aside from the fact that, again, I feel very blessed to have met and talked to all the people that I have on the pod so far.
Yeah.
Like genuinely had conversation, not just like, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? What do you No, like actual like conversations and shit,
Yeah.
It's how isolating this all is. I mean, this would not exist without guests.
No.
And that's why I made it a point to I thought it'd be cool to have people sign a banner, but that's why, like, no matter where I go, like, I'm gonna have a monument to that. Like, these are the people that make the pod, not me. I'm just I'm a conduit for the audience.
Well, yes. But if you don't have the skill to move it along, then it's tough.
I do my best.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, sometimes, you have to rein people in. You know what I mean?
Those are the best problems to have.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, wait a second.
No, that is good. It's the worst one is the worst problem is where you have to, like, come on, like, give me something. Yeah, that's the worst problem. But, like, again, it's a craft, and you learn that, and you just kind of you read people and you learn it, and it's And I mean, I feel like you've done it 4 years. I haven't watched a lot of your shows, but I watched some of it, and I could tell. And the other thing too is if you have the right kind of people, they know what they're doing too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
This is true.
Yeah,
this is
like Amanda.
True.
She knows what she's doing.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, listen, this has been a fucking blast.
Sure. Yeah, had a great time.
Thank you so much for coming through. I would love to do this again sometime.
Sure. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, we'll have to bring you on our show. Yeah,
I'd love to.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to do it. Yeah. Probably after January because we have some stuff coming up. So, well, you have the holidays on.
Yeah. Whenever you like, let me know, and I'd love to have you back on, man. Where can people find you? Where both your personal or all your podcast stuff? Where can they find you?
Our website's tendrinkminimum.com. We have Instagram. It's 10 Drink Minimum Podcast. We're on if you want to listen to the show, we're on YouTube. We're on every we're on every podcast catcher. I don't know what you call them now. I don't know what they're called now, but if you can't find us on something, I'd be shocked. It's weird though, because there's new ones up that pop up all the time, and I'm like, who's using these?
It's like Spotify, Apple, Google, all that shit's gotcha.
Every bit. You can go on our website and it's all there.
Awesome.
But there's some you're like, you know what I mean. You Google your name, and you're like, what is this one?
Yeah. It's
like just tune in or something, something like I don't. And then you're like, I doubt them, and then there I am. Like, there I am. Weird. Okay.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, we're on all that stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, dude, 17 years. Yeah. That is a fucking accomplishment.
Thank you.
You said 18 next summer.
Yeah.
20's around the corner, and quite frankly, as a viewer and as a fan, I don't expect you to stop anytime soon.
Nah.
What you guys have got going is a great thing.
Thank you.
And
I appreciate that. Because I mean, I will say this, and I don't know if you feel this way. Sometimes, as someone putting stuff out in the world, you don't. Sometimes you're like, are people even listening? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then it for me it ebbs and flows. Like there'll be like nothing, and then all of a sudden I'll get tons of like love and feedback and everything, and it's like And for people listening, if you like what we do, let us know, man. We love that. We enjoy it, and it keeps us going. And to me, it always happens at the time it needs to happen. Like I'm just a little like, and then someone's like, like I've had a fan come from Australia to hang out.
Oh,
I've had a fan come from London. Like he was gonna be here, but he was like, "Hey, you mind if I pop over and hang out with you guys?" And he's come twice. He's brought us really good, amazing London gin both times.
That's legit.
So yeah. So I mean, all for it. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's holy shit from London, huh?
Yeah.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah. The Australian guy was like, "I'm gonna be in the United States. Can I pop over?" And I'm like, "Where are you gonna be in the United States?"
Yeah, define United States, bud.
He goes, Florida. I go, "Oh, we're not even close to that place." And he's like, "It's fine." He goes, he flew over from Florida. I was like, okay.
Oh shit.
Hung out for the weekend.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I don't expect you guys. I know you don't expect to stop anytime soon, but I do not expect that show to stop anytime soon. What you guys have got going is a good thing.
Thank you.
And I'm real happy for you.
Yeah, happy for you too, man. This is great.
Thank you very much.
Love it, man. I've just been looking around, I've been trying to focus, but I'm like, oh wow, look, because I'm like Batman, Superman, Batman. That's cool.
Well, thank you again for coming. Thank you everyone for listening and watching, and we will see you next time.
All right.
Bye, everybody.